righty, let's call this meeting to order. Monday, April 6th at 6 p.m. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bracco?
Here.
Councilmember Klein?
Here.
Councilmember Fugazi?
Here.
Councilmember Hilton? Councilmember Marks?
Here.
Councilmember Ramirez?
Here.
Mayor Bozo?
Here. Item 1.3, City Clerk's report on posting of the agenda, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This agenda was posted on Thursday, March 27th at 1:36 p.m.
Thank you. Okay, item 1.4, a Pledge of the Allegiance, which will be led by Councilmember Fugazi.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to jump right to it, to employee introductions. Luke, introductions by Luke. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to introduce Police Officer Logan Lyons, who joins the Gilroy Police Department on March 6th. Logan is a graduate of Valley Christian High School and brings 7 years of experience as a commercial plumber and foreman, during which he managed large-scale projects throughout the Bay Area. That experience has helped him develop strong leadership, problem-solving, and teamwork skills that translate well into law enforcement. Logan is supported by his partner of 8 years, his parents, his 2 brothers. In his spare time, he enjoys horsemanship, working on classic cars, and woodworking. We are proud to welcome Logan to the Gilroy Police Department.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Logan Lyons. As you just heard, I just wanted to take a moment and thank the members of the council and everyone in the city for welcoming me, as I've come from San Jose, but I felt this was a very special community. So I came down here, applied, and have been given the amazing opportunity to work here. So I just want to thank you all and tell you it's an honor to serve your community.
All right, next up, it is my pleasure to introduce Police Officer Kevin Figueroa, who joined the department on March 7th. Kevin was born and raised in nearby Hollister and is a graduate of San Benito High School. Prior to joining our department, he worked at the North Face outlet here in Gilroy, where he took an increasing responsibility, including training staff and serving in a supervisory role during high demand periods. Kevin also spent 3 years as an explorer with the San Benito County Sheriff's Office, where he developed strong communication skills, leadership ability, and a commitment to community service. In his free time, Kevin enjoys fishing, working out, and running. We are excited to have him join our team and welcome him to the Gilroy Police Department. Good
afternoon, everyone. As Captain Powell just introduced me, I am very happy to be working here for the city of Gilroy. I've worked here for the last 3 years, and coming to the city meeting today, everyone welcomed us with open arms. Everyone's very happy, very eager for us to be working for the city. It's a beautiful city. I love the community, and the department. It's a very family-oriented department, and I really love working here.
Thank you.
All right, one more. Best for last. It is my pleasure to introduce Community Service Officer Victoria Zepeda, who joined us on March 23rd. Victoria is a graduate of San Jose State University, where she earned a Bachelor's of Science in Justice Studies, graduating magna cum laude. She also earned multiple academic awards, including recognition as a Dean's Scholar, and holds certifications in Spanish translation and interpretation. She brings valuable experience from her work with the Federal Public Defender's Office and most recently with the Fremont Police Department, where she developed strong communication, organizational, and problem-solving skills. Victoria comes from a family deeply committed to public service, including a brother who serves as a detective with the San Jose Police Department. In her free time, she enjoys hiking, sports, and spending time with family. We are excited to have Victoria join our team and serve the Gilroy community.
Hello, everyone. I'm Victoria Cepeda, and I'm very excited for this opportunity to be a community service officer. And I'm very excited to engage with the public and make it a better place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 2.1, I have a proclamation. So today's proclamation is for Fair Housing Month, and the proclamation will be received by Denitza Roncal. So Denitza, I will meet you up at the podium. Read this, and then you can say a few words, and then all the council will come out and take a picture. Okay, City of Gilroy proclamation. Whereas adequate housing is a basic need of all people. Whereas this year we celebrate the 58th anniversary of the enactment of the Federal Fair Housing Act of 1968, which states that discrimination in the sale and rental of housing is illegal when based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. And whereas the City of Gilroy supports fair housing efforts to eliminate discrimination in housing and recognizes the benefits of Project Sentinel to educate home seekers, apartment managers, and apartment owners on federal and state housing laws, and to investigate complaints of illegal housing discrimination in Gilroy. And whereas, in order to heighten public awareness, the City of Gilroy wishes to focus public attention in April as Fair Housing Month. Now, therefore, I, Greg Bozo, Mayor of the City of Gilroy, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2026 as Fair Housing Month, and encourage all residents and community organizations to celebrate the value of harmonious and diverse communities of neighbors and to support the goal of equal housing opportunity for all people. Thank you so much. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you to the City of Gilroy and the Mayor for your continued partnership and support of Project Sentinel and Fair Housing in the community. Fair housing is deeply rooted in the civil rights movement, and the protections we rely on today exist because of that history. While we've made progress, housing discrimination is not a thing of the past. It continues to impact residents, especially during a time when housing challenges are front and center for so many families. Now more than ever, support for fair housing is essential to create real solutions that promote access, stability, and opportunity. Project Sentinel is committed to this work every day, addressing housing discrimination one case at a time. To learn more about our services, please visit our website, www.housing.org.com. Thank you so much.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Take a couple more. 1, 2, 3. All right, good.
Okay, moving on to item number 3, presentations to council. 3.1 will be the presentation of the annual report for the Gilroy Elevate the Arts program by Silicon Valley Creates. And thank you for coming in, Alexandra Urbanowski.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me tonight. I just have a little short slide deck. But first, just good evening, and Mayor and Council, thank you so much for having me here tonight. Again, I'm Alexandra Urbanowski. I'm CEO of SV Creates, SB Create serves as the Arts Council for Santa Clara County, providing resources and building capacity for the arts and service to healthy communities throughout our county and in coordination with our county government and Board of Supervisors. You can see examples of all our programs in our annual report, which I think we passed out copies to you just today. But I'm here tonight to report to you on the third year results of the Elevate Gilroy Through the Arts grant program, which your funding helped make possible this past year. We launched this program 3 years ago with recognition that the Gilroy arts and cultural community had been historically under-resourced in our county. This program is the only city-specific program we currently offer in the county. All of our other grant programs are county-wide, open from Gilroy to Palo Alto, San Jose to Milpitas, and all the other towns. In Gilroy, we also coordinate the Gilroy Arts Roundtable, which brings together artists, arts groups, and local arts patrons and supporters in monthly meetings to provide mutual support and partnership. You can read the full written report, which was provided to you by staff in your packet. This year, we were able to fund 8 projects that we believe more than succeeded in meeting the objectives for the grant program. These are the objectives which we presented to you 3 years ago when we started this program, and they are supporting artistic work that is relevant to and designed for the Gilroy community, raising the visibility of local artists, engaging local residents and activating public spaces, uplifting our historically under-resourced arts ecosystem, encouraging other funding for the arts in Gilroy, and rallying public support of the arts and all that they can do to make our community healthy and strong. You can read more about each of the projects in the report, and I'm sure and hopefully many of you have attended some of them throughout the year. There are a few still to come this spring and summer, and I want to just highlight a few of the ways the projects and, in fact, the entire grant process meets those objectives. So just a few examples. The Chalk Festival in October brought together families, student volunteers, artists, and others at Christmas Hill Park. We had about approximately 800 people attend this festival. Local residents participate, students participate, local artists participate in this chalk art competition, and food and vendors and related activities for a really great day. The La Frenda Festival, of course, was in its third year this fall, engaged over 40 organizational and funding partners, filled the downtown streets with music and arts, a wellness fair, local food and vendors, and not specifically just commenting on this because I'm sure most of you have been to it. The very first year we funded this just with this grant, and now in the third year they're attracting funding from all over the county and beyond to make it a broader scale. Over 200 artists participated in this. I want to particularly call out the Manos Folklorico Dance Company. Its local students participated in the La Frenda Festival, and this summer, with a new grant, their own grant from this Elevate Gilroy through the Arts Grant Program, they're going to produce a full public folklorico showcase featuring over 50 local dancers at Gavilan College, and that is probably going to be scheduled for June. You'll get more information when that date is set. Additional grant programs that will still to come this year that are funded through this program include the Poppy Jasper Film Festival, of course, coming up in a few days. We'll hopefully see you there. Free visual art showcases of local artists with workshop components at 1202 Contemporary Gallery, a summer mariachi workshop series and performance, which will be new this year. We haven't funded before, and this is going to take place at the Casa de Cultura, which is in your city space here in downtown, and that will be this summer and open to all local residents, and several other projects that will be happening in the downtown Gilroy area throughout the summer. We are able to leverage the $25,000 a year commitment from the city of Gilroy to run a competitive open grant cycle and award this past year just over $57,000 in grants. And that $57,000 was further leveraged by the artists and arts organizations that executed the projects to raise more than double that in cash and then in-kind support, in addition to numerous volunteer hours from local residents and students particularly. This coming summer, we'll be opening this project again, this grant cycle again, for its fourth year. We'll be inviting proposals and applications in the summer, and we do a fairly rigorous outreach program. We're always looking for new local artists, new local community groups to apply to this. So my staff will be here at Neon Exchange and other places in town doing workshops and outreach to bring new artists and new programs into the grant pool. So I think that's it, and hopefully you've seen the report, and I think I have a couple minutes for questions if there's anything particular.
Any questions for Alexandra? No, great report.
Sounds good?
Thanks a lot.
Great. Thank you all for your
Coming in.
support. We look forward to continuing the work and the impact.
Thank you, so are we. Okay, moving on to item number 3, public comment.
Landon Sepulveda.
Good evening, council members, and to those in the gallery. My name is Landon Sepulveda, and I am here on behalf of our group, Stop the Gilroy Data Center. It is our goal as concerned residents to implement the following regulations on the current data center being constructed in our city. 1, ensure the strain of power and water does not cause a hike in our utility bills, like data centers have been known to do across the country. 2, mandate the data center only use recycled water throughout its lifespan and pay for the entirety of the infrastructure required to do so. 3, enforce the data center only hire local residents of Gilroy, giving our neighbors stable jobs instead of trained representatives sent by Amazon to our city. These are some of the major asks the community has given to the City Council and to Amazon. We've been told by representatives of Amazon that some of these demands are already being fulfilled. We request that Amazon work with us to provide assurances on the validity of that claim. They have not done so. I ask the City Council to encourage the project holder to work with the community and come to an agreement, or to work with our group in implementing these demands via the city. This would make the community healthier, safer, and shows the city that the council is listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Landon.
And Ron Kirkish.
I'm here again to speak in favor of the data centers, or the artificial intelligence centers. For years and years, we tried to attack semiconductor and high-tech business here to Gilroy. We almost had one, I believe it. AMD was thinking about coming to Gilroy and settling up in up the street here. So anyway, this is an opportunity. These centers are excellent centers. I talked to a friend of ours today, Dan Harney. His business uses AI, and they're making a lot of money because of it. It helps them to generate new processes for making semiconductors, going to nanostructures. And it's cheap, and the quality is excellent. So I know that there's a group out there that wants to stop it. It would be foolish. We need it, and this city can use it too, for many other uses too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
I have no further speakers.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to item number 4, reports of council members. Councilmember Bracco.
Nothing to report.
Councilmember Fugazzi.
No report.
Councilmember Marks.
Yes, 2 weeks ago, Councilmember Ramirez and I attended the Habitat Implementation and Governing Board meeting, and we will be rotating every other meeting on who gives the report, so I'm doing it this time. The Governing and Implementation Boards met on March 18th. We received the report for the 5-year review of the costs, funding, and developmental fees. They have an $845 million budget for the 50-year plan. Development fees contribute 55% to this budget. Land management is 35%, and restoration is 20% of the cost. When a burrowing owl site is not used for 3 years by the owls, the site is removed from the fee zone, which impacts the burrowing owl program. 2 sites were removed that day, one of which was at the San Jose Airport. Lastly, a burrowing owl presentation was given. 2025 was the best year for nesting sites and babies. In 2014, the nesting sites had a sharp decrease, but with the Habitat Agency's involvement, sites have increased. Whereas, where there is not the agency's control of an area, there is a sharp decrease. And that was it.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Ramirez.
Yes, a couple of things. I had the great opportunity to attend Gilroy Appreciation Day at Gilroy Gardens with a couple of my grandkids. We had a great time, and I just want to do a shout out to Gilroy Gardens on a great season opener. I encourage all of you to head out there. It's such a gem in our community, and they're getting or they are planning on several different programs throughout the year. So I encourage everyone to head out that way. I participated in Career Day at Solar Sono Middle School. I spoke at a political science class at Gavilan, attended a county housing community development advisory committee meeting where Gilroy will receive home funding for the 8th and Alexander low income housing project, which is still years away from completion. I attended the Cal City's Housing Community and Economic Development Policy Committee meeting in Costa Mesa. This committee is reviewed 3 different pieces of legislature that are going through the process and made recommendations to the Cal City's Board of Directors. Those 3 include AB 1674, food deserts. The concerns by the committee was that there was lack of funding, additional burden administratively to cities, and it is already market-driven. The recommendation by the committee was to oppose unless it was amended to say that it allows cities to opt in, it does not require developers to pay into grant funding, and cities may provide incentives. The second one was AB 1738, state housing law, that would allow for remote inspections, and the committee opposed this. Technically, cities can already do this. They're still waiting, though, for the Cal State Fire Committee to put their input in. It was opposed by building officials due to health and safety issues, and they prefer local jurisdiction to determine a list of what can be looked at remotely. The last one was AB 1914 general plan elements with regards to childcare. And the committee opposed this because cities already have an ability to incorporate that into the general plan. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Klein.
No report.
Okay, I have a few. From Gilroy Gardens Board of Directors, after a year of planning and 3 months of a recruiting program, the Gilroy Gardens staff has hired a Chief Advancement Officer. Their role will be to be strictly for fundraising. So you might ask, well, why fundraising at Gilroy Gardens? The model of nonprofit organizations that offer either theme park or some type of experience. So think of Happy Hollow, think of the Tech Museum, think of the Children's Museum, and think of the aquarium as a big operation. Most of these operations, what they're finding over the years is that it's very, very difficult to make money, extra money to improve your facility, and especially when it comes to deferred maintenance and stuff like that. So after a year of planning, we hired Chief Advancement Officer. Her name is June Aiello, and she lives in Gilroy, and we're looking forward to get her started. From the South Valley Water Resource Committee, this is a committee, it's an advisory committee only. 2 members of Gilroy Council, 2 members of Morgan Hill Council, and 2 members from Valley Water. Myself and Councilmember Bracco sit on it, and this is just an advisory board where we hear and give opinions of the community back to Valley Water regarding what happens mostly with the effluent water. That's the purple pipe that you see, the recycled water that comes back into the community. One of the things that's unique is that we have the facility down here in Gilroy, and we receive water and wastewater from both Morgan Hill and Gilroy, but Gilroy is the only city that gets the effluent water. And it's something that's viewed as very valuable to a community. So we need to have conversations with our friends up in Morgan Hill about is there some day that they can have an opportunity to get that. So those are big asks. That's a 18-mile pipeline from the recycle facility all the way to Morgan Hill to North Morgan Hill. So those are some of the conversations that are going on. What we also learned, or what I learned that day, a lot of people already knew this, and this is something that a public speaker just mentioned, and that is, what is our new data center doing about recycled water? So our new data center is actually funding 100% the cost of bringing recycled water from the recycle facility in South Gilroy all the way to the site of their project. And that's being funded to the tune of 15 or $20 million, 100% by Amazon Web Services. And that pipeline will then be used for all of our community on that side of the east side of the road for economic development. So that's something that's going on there. And finally, I would like to just mention that I spent some time at the parks over the past weekend. I have a young son in Little League now, so I'm at the park a lot. And I wanted to say to the parks folks, I was there 2 Saturday mornings ago at 11 a.m., and I did a little count, and I stopped counting at 450 people that were in the parks at Los Alamos Park. And it was just football practice, handball, tennis, baseball, spectators, everything you can think of. Playground, people walking their dogs, people walking, and there was 450 people. And later that afternoon, I ended up at Christmas Hill, and I wanted to do the count again. And on the park side alone, there was 250 people doing about the same thing that was going on at Los Alamos earlier in the day. And I also want to say that it's always a great indication from the people who are managing your parks is after your first heat wave, which we had a couple weeks ago, is how well does the grass look? And the grass looked excellent at both parks. So thank you very much to the parks teams. With that being said, I'm going to move on to item number 5. That's the consent calendar. And we have items 5.1 through 5.7. Any questions for staff? Well, I would like to put on the record, I have a little comment. I would put on the record that I will vote yes on all of the items, but I did want to comment on item number 5.7. And that is the appointment of Harjot Singha as the new city administrator. So I wanted to give a little background for the community. This is a new position at the city of Gilroy that has never existed before, if I have that correct. So I believe that this is a milestone for Gilroy, the fact that we have taken this opportunity to have this new position, and thank you very much to our new city administrator for making this happen. And I want to say congratulations to Harjot. I think you're the right person for the job, so thank you very much. Thank you. So with that being said, I will go to public comment. Excuse me. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Motion.
I'll second.
Public comment first?
Yeah, we need public.
I need public comment first. Sorry about that. Any public comment?
I have no speakers.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead. I'm looking for a motion.
I move.
Second.
And a second. Okay, so I have a motion by Councilmember Ramirez and a second by Councilmember Klein for the approval of the consent items 5.1 through 5.7. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bracco?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Fugazi?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Ramirez?
Yes.
Mayor Bozo?
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 6, bids and proposals. Council award a contract to Pros Consulting for the Recreation Division assessment in the amount of $372,690 and adopt a resolution amending the fiscal year 2026 budget in the Recreation Fund. Take it away, Bryce, and welcome back, Bryce.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Definitely glad to be back. So as mentioned, this is the Recreation Assessment Contract Award item for council consideration. So just a little bit of background. The council adopted a legislative agenda item to talk about the general fund contribution to the Recreation Fund, the annual $1.5 million to be specific. Additionally, there was an administration department work plan item to also look at the assessment of the the division. This stemmed from conversations with council during the budget process and the strategic planning sessions, primarily revolving around the staffing budget requests, the Aquatics program considerations, and the discussion we've been having there. And then we had some concerns from some residents about the affordability of our youth programs. And so because of the nature of the division, its limited budget and staffing, all of those elements essentially are interdependent on each other. And so affecting one affects the others. And so we came to council to talk about having a comprehensive evaluation of the Recreation Division conducted. In September 2025, council provided direction to go ahead and seek an outside consultant to conduct that assessment. Staff put together a scope of work, had it reviewed by the Parks and Recreation Commission, and then submitted it to council in November of 2025 via email. The RFP was released on December 18, 2025, and closed in early February. Overall, the city received 4 proposals. These are contained and discussed more in depth in the staff report itself. On the screen is the average scoring of those proposals and the proposal amount. Pros Consulting had the highest average score, and then ranked in order there from Barry Dunn, Matrix, and Raftellus. There's a 3-person scoring committee, and then non-scored interviews were conducted afterwards once the ranking was completed, just to get some clarification on some of the proposals and to ask some general questions about willingness to adapt scope. So a brief analysis, Pros Consulting did score the highest. The primary reason was the higher level of experience both of the firm, but also the assigned team that was being proposed to come to us. The methodology and deliverables were fully aligned with the scope of work that the city produced. They're the only proposal that didn't have any gray areas of really understanding that they really understood our scope of work and what we were looking for from that assessment. And then some insightful interview responses about the communication with hard-to-reach communities and Spanish-speaking community for the city. The evaluation team did feel that Barry Dunn and Matrix could conduct the assessment, but was concerned about Raftellis's scope of work. It was very generalized. So some considerations to think about as we consider these is the fact of the need for a comprehensive assessment, as we mentioned. We talked about them being interdependent. This document essentially would guide council and staff and recreation for the next couple of decades, likely. There is no such thing as a master plan for recreation on the service side, usually the parks and infrastructure. So this would guide both the strategic planning process, discussions in the future with council, budget decisions, and operations for the division. And then Pros Consulting is also very familiar with the community. They did the needs assessment at the outset right before COVID hit. And so have a unique perspective on the community, having operated with assessment and the community engagement part of that for the city before. Fiscal impact, as mentioned, $372,690 from the Recreation Fund. Current available balance, this is excluding the operations budget and the pickleball appropriations already out there, is $1.3 million. The budget amendment is proposed to appropriate the needed funds. As mentioned, the previous meeting, once we had the proposals in and knew the amount, we then come back to council to appropriate those funds. So the staff report does provide some additional options for council consideration regarding the budget and the consultants. And happy to discuss those. But ultimately, the recommendation from staff is to award the contract to Pros Consulting, authorize the city administrator to execute the agreement, and then adopt the attached budget amendment resolution. That completes the presentation. Happy to field any questions.
Any questions? Go ahead, Dion.
I'm against awarding this contract because I think it's a waste of money, just like the downtown parking study was and all the other studies we do. We have one that we did on the needs assessment for the Parks and Recreation, and then we never did anything about it. And it's just another almost 400 grand we're going to throw away and throw the report in some drawer somewhere, and that's all that's ever going to become of it, because we won't have any money to invest in the Parks and Rec. We could do a lot better spending this $400,000 on programs in our recreation department. Thank you.
Other questions? I have a couple questions. Also, could you give some feedback on? I know in the Pros Consulting proposal, there was that big line item for facilities, and I don't recall. And correct me if I'm wrong. I don't recall when we had this discussion last year that we talked about a need for a facilities assessment. Did we get into that last year?
That wasn't one of the triggering items for the. It wasn't one of the top 4 items that council identified. Yeah. When we look at the programming, we had to take into consideration. At that point, it was unclear on the Civic Center master plan that was just underway. Will we have the facilities? Are facilities equipped and appropriate to provide certain programming versus others, and what's the optimization for that? And then also to kind of look at, are there easy and these were low-hanging fruit, but easy fixes that we can do in order to expand existing facilities that we have to provide more programming. And so that's one of the things we looked at, and that's also one of the reasons why we had the options to award without that component in there, because it is a large component. The scope of work that we produced was looking at everything on the business side as well. So refresh the needs assessment to see if there's any changes in the community sentiment about what kind of activities that they're wanting to do and what service they're looking for. But one of the things the needs assessment didn't do was look at the actual business operations of the division. And so we want to include expansive scope to look at all of those. We figured it's easier to remove things as we kind of go through that process than to try to add things in the future. And then additionally looking at the fact that we have the fund balance. Again, once those additional programs are underway, fund balance might not build up to that level to be able to afford such an extensive study. But that's the concept and thought behind that process.
Okay. Councilmember Fugazi, then Councilmember Ramirez.
I think it'd be helpful to, especially with the new city administrator up here, to understand possibly from him his direction and feeling on countering what Councilmember Bracco said, which is this is just going to be something that's going to be put away in a drawer. How will this ultimately be used? Would it fit into the plans and programs that he can envision going forward? Or would he like to punt on this for a few months until he gets things kind of organized and come back to us with some other recommendations? And that would certainly help us out, I think, or at least help me out.
Through the mayor, thank you for the question. I think as I went back to the meeting from last year, from last September, to look at the council discussion on and what the council was looking for, I think there's a desire to look at our rec program, understand what our programming is, and look what we can do for the community. So I think the time is ripe for that. I think it's a good opportunity to take a look at that so that we can move forward. It factors into a lot of decisions, obviously, through from a financing perspective. How do we make this happen in the future? And we have those questions that we'll continue to wrestle with. From my perspective, it's always good to understand the entire picture. So having all of the information in front of us as we're making those decisions is helpful for me.
So a $400,000 ask, as he says, is warranted. I know we obviously have budgetary issues to begin with. So to Councilmember Bracco's point, which I'm listening to with all the history, obviously, that you have on this, we're going to be faced with some other budgetary issues. We're going to have a lot of recommendations of things we can do, and it's going to look like a Christmas wish book of things that we won't be relative or valid even if we dig ourselves out of a particular maybe impending budget need for, say, firefighters or police or what have you. So you don't have a real concern over that?
So I looked at it in a couple of ways. So one, I think that, again, looking at the meeting from last year, I think the council really had a desire to understand what programming that could be available for the community. So from the programming perspective, I think that makes a lot of sense. From an infrastructure perspective, from doing the facilities assessment, I think it's important that the city understand what our infrastructure needs are anyways, and whether we do that in this project or as a project in the future, it doesn't make that big a difference to me, other than having it done in a timely manner is useful as we're looking at the needs.
So you would have recommended this 6 or 8 months ago if you were here to do this?
I would have, yeah.
Okay.
So Councilmember Ramirez and then Councilmember Marks.
So in the report, it talked about when the assessment was done, 2018, 2019, there was an involvement from the YWCA. Did they help fund that effort, or what was their involvement, and why were they so involved in last time, but I don't see any talk about it this time?
I'm not familiar with how involved they were back in the 2019 effort. At that point in time, the pros consulting was also the consultant selected. So it'd be whatever collaboration working with pros consulting this time if they want to contribute information and participation. But pros consulting in the proposal is proposing a robust community engagement both into partners. One of the big pushes that we put in the scope of work was to analyze our relationship with different partners to help provide that programming, also to kind of give that feedback.
Right, and I would assume that they would reach out to YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, all those different entities, but the way it was written in the report, I don't know if anybody else saw that, and it just intimated to me that there was more of a true partnership in this effort rather than that they were, part of the assessment process. So maybe I just read it wrong?
I'm not aware. I can find out, but not aware.
Thank you.
Councilmember Marks.
Rice, were you with us in 2019? I don't remember.
I was.
Do you recall when we went through this big assessment with a consulting firm, because I do remember we were each called in individually as council members and asked what our preferences were. They had interviewed a lot of citizens to ask what they wanted to see their children involved with or what they would like to see more of, at the adult level. And before I approve this, I would like to see what happened to that report, because that also was a very expensive consulting price tag. And exactly what this is proposing is what happened, 5 years ago, 6 years ago? And then nothing ever came of it. And I agree with Councilmember Bronco. I would hate to see us spend $375 and it gets put in a drawer or on a shelf, never to be heard of again. So by any chance, would you happen to know where this report was placed? You probably didn't work in that department though at the time.
Yeah, I was in the finance department at the time.
Right.
So the report exists. It's a public record. It's used. We've referenced it in recreation since I've been there. The biggest challenge we have is that the data was all collected pre-COVID. And so this year was the first time we've actually felt comfortable with the user fees coming in to recommend additional positions and look at expand that scope. As part of that discussion, the questions came back, was this the best use of the funds and the user fees that are coming in? And that's what sparked the transition need to talk about an assessment and seeing on the business side of the division of where the investment is and what council's vision for the 1.5 million. The key takeaway is during the COVID, as part of the measures to try to protect the funds, the general fund of the city, the recreation contribution of 2.7 million was cut down to 1.5 million.
Right.
That has not increased despite the inflation and everything coming in. And so those funds were identified for specific functions first and foremost, usually at risk populations, so seniors, youth, adaptive, those type of programs. So one of the components is looking at the long-term viability of the 1.5 million. So there's questions on both sides of a greater need for the 1.5 million to be contributed to recreation, but also the need for it to go into other departments.
Because I remember one of the discussions and why it got decreased down to 1.5 was because it seemed like it was very manager heavy at the time and it wasn't going into programs. And I remember that council had really questioned it and didn't think that was appropriate, so to speak. So we gave them the 1.5 million to address the needs of programs and have them find their if they wanted all the management side of it, then they would have to come up with the money on their own. But, okay, thank you.
Councilmember Fugazzi.
Just a quick follow-up. So, and part of this did come out of last year's planning because we were looking at that 1.5 million at the time, and for a number of years, and maybe Harjo has to speak on this, we ran as a surplus, and are we still currently running a surplus out of that 1.5 million that was going into that?
Virgil Tsang, the finance director, also the assistant city administrator at this point. Thank you. That is correct. So operationally, the recreation fund over the last several years has been generating a surplus per se because we've had the ability to expand recreation programming and the associated user fees. All that to say, a lot of some of that fund balance has been accumulated and has been allocated for like the pickleball court, reserved for this specific assessment as well. And what I would add is I think there was again, just going back to the budget process, there was a desire to holistically take a look at recreation because there is a desire to expand recreation programming in the city. And in order to really do that, we needed updated data, updated information as to what is feasible and where this council really desires and how we're going to pay for it from a
so to tie this up, would it be easy to say, quick to say that we have money in this fund because it's coming from allocation that was supposed to go to Parks and Recreation anyway that's going to pay for this?
Correct.
And the reason that we want to have it is because we're running a surplus anyway and we want to spend the money in the wisest way possible to provide the best services, and this is supposed to get us to that point.
Correct. Yeah, this is a long-term play to really build up the programming and vision of what's possible, as opposed to doing this on a yearly basis based on what's available, right?
Thank you.
I would say,
Councilmember Klein.
I understand the concerns about spending money and not doing anything with the data, but I think with what we've gone through, we're gonna do something with the data, and that's the whole idea. And I think maybe not necessarily looking at the facilities assessment, but the program is a big part of that, right? Was it 250? What was the amount?
Yeah, so it did about 250 or 250 or 270.
259,000.
And phasing it, like what Matt said, we could possibly look at it that way too.
Okay. Why don't we go to public comment?
Ron Kirkish.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I have to weigh down with Mr. Bracco on this issue. Mr. Bracco has served the longest out of all of you, and he's got the most experience with issues of this nature. So you should really consider what he's saying very seriously. I do. $400,000 for this issue? Can't we do something better than that? Why not 1/4 of that, or even 25,000? What the heck are we doing, spending $400,000 on an issue of this nature? Yeah, if you want to do it, but let's do it within a reasonable amount of time, money. Mr. Rocco's right. We've gone through and we've seen a lot of reports, and what have they done with them? He's right. Nothing. Carol's right. So come on, let's be serious about this. This is our money. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no further speakers.
Okay. Any comments? I'll go with Rocco first, and then Fugazzi. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly remind everyone that later in the agenda, we're going to be talking about asking the citizens of Gilroy to give us more money. So I think you ought to think about that before you spend this.
Councilmember Fugazzi.
I would definitely share the feelings of Councilmember Bracco if I was making this decision probably a year ago under a different administration leading the staff. At this point, I'm with the questions that I've asked our city administrator and his commitment to his job and his commitment to doing what's right and taking this kind of information and making actionable, smart decisions with it. I have to have the confidence at this point that he is going to be different than maybe what has been done in the past. And that's the best I think we can do up here. I know that getting information and getting information quickly, and by quickly I mean having scale with an outside organization to provide you all of these data points that you can't get internally, can lead to optimizing where you're going to spend the money. And certainly if you do it just as an exercise to placate whatever the current council happens to be, it's an absolute waste of money. And at another time with another issue up here, I'm sure I'll talk a little bit more about that. But on this one, I think I'm going to have to lean in and hold the city administrator accountable for the information that he's going to get from this and to do great things for the city. Thank you.
Comments on my left?
I agree with Councilmember Fugazzi about that. And trusting the city administrator, with the process and taking the information in and doing something with that information is critical, and I feel comfortable at this point.
Councilmember Ramirez?
You know, I'm conflicted because these are great points, both sides, right? I appreciate, we cannot throw money away. We just don't have it. We just don't have it to throw away. And, you know, this is a huge amount of money. But then again, you know, this is something we have a new leader at the helm. And so there's that, that trust and that accountability. I'm looking at it through a different lens, though, because if I remember correctly in the conversation that we had, you know, with regards to this, we talked about the Parks and Rec program also leaning into what we can offer as economic development, and so it kind of supports the whole economic development component of what, we all support. And so, yeah, this one's a hard one. This one's definitely a hard one. And to Councilmember Bracco's point, with what is still ahead of us on tonight's agenda, it is something that is, man, if we vote this way, I do not want this sitting on a shelf.
Thank you. Councilmember Marks.
Yes, I feel also conflicted over this because with someone new at the helm, I have a feeling that this would be looked at. I can't help to think that some of, the Parks and Rec people are still employed here from 2019, that they could not give the input of the citizens that were interviewed, and Sterling Parks and Rec would know of their needs. I guess I'm just questioning, do we really need an outside agency to come in and talk to everyone to find out what Gilroy needs? Because I think we can do this internally. That's my gut instinct to say, why can't Parks and Rec put together a survey and talk to the public? Because I'm not against expanding programs. I'm very much for that, and I want to see more programs put in. We've had citizens over the years come in with programs that they wanted to introduce, and so the ideas are out there. I'm just having a hard time spending $375,000 when we're looking at a sales tax hike later on tonight. So that's where I'm coming from.
Thank you. I'll have a few comments. So I want to go back to about a year ago when we were talking about this, and I want to say what I remember. And last year, there was a lot of people from the community that were in here talking about recreation. And one of the things that they talk about, and I believe it was you, Councilmember Marks, was engaging and agreeing with them, is that the cost for recreation in Gilroy is so high. And that was one of the things that was a big, and I believe you said, the costs are too high.
Right.
And this is what was driving this conversation about how can we do better in this community. And this is what led us to a rec assessment. And the other thing that we talked about is the fact that can't we do better with our rec department working with nonprofit organizations? Can we leverage the assets that we have in our community to work better and more efficiently with nonprofit organizations to bring more activities to Gilroy for cheaper? And the other thing that I remember talking about is that in the previous model that we're trying to move away from, I believe, I'm speaking for myself, is that our Parks and Rec, or our rec, was on a cost recovery management style, right? Cost recovery meaning that whatever services they provide, they have to be paid for by the public. And it seemed like that we agreed as a council that we want to move away from that because there are members of this community that can't afford these activities. So I just want to take everybody back to a year ago that there was a lot of people in this room that were talking about the need for recreation, and this is why we came up with that. So go ahead, Councilmember Fugazi.
I mean, that's not the entire story.
Sure, no doubt.
I want to provide a lot of context. The context was there were other asks in the budget. We had been running a surplus in the recreation fund out of that $1.5 million. I was met with resistance by the administration at that time in saying we can fund these other things. We're not spending all of the money in recreation as it is, and we had at that time, I don't know, close to $3 million or something in the recreation fund that had been kind of squirreled away for a while. And the way that was spun into the public was that we were cutting recreation. That is what brought everybody out. That's what brought all of the noise. That's what brought things are costing too much. And we are subsidizing already right now the recreation department, and there were people who were asking that we subsidize it more. My feeling on this thing does not change in that we have that surplus there of $1.3 million. You could say we're throwing it away, but if we ask people who are not completely equipped to assess all of this in the most prudent way in our neighborhood, to do so, we could be literally throwing that money in the least optimal way out towards that. And if we're going to then also potentially at some point have members up here argue for even more than that $1.5 million, certainly I'd want to know why that would be the case, that we would want more. Because, you know, there's only a small amount of money in that surplus anyway if you wanted to increase what you said, to have people pay less. And so there is going to be an ask, and if there's going to be an ask for more money, then you'd want to know exactly how you're going to divvy it up and to where. And there isn't anybody, I don't think, and Mr. Morley can maybe talk to this. I don't think we have a senior executive recreation type person who is equipped to come to those kinds of decisions. We have a collection of experts in recreation at a certain level, but not at a level above that for our size. And rightly, you're right, we got rid of some of that staff at the time. So I don't see another way out of this than doing something like this, or just continuing to do exactly what we've done to date and continue on status quo. So I think that's really the two choices.
So before I ask for a motion, I might offer up the conversation for Councilmember Ramirez and Councilmember Marks, who are a little bit conflicted here, is that would you, if you're having a hard time with the $379,000 price tag, would you consider the option number 2 that sets the maximum at $225,000 and let the city administrator and our administration negotiate for the best possible use of those dollars?
You know, that would be a better choice, because as I sit here saying, yes, I was fighting for families to have a reduced cost, and here we are taking $375,000 that could have gone for some reduced costs and putting it into a consulting firm's hands. $200,000 is still a lot, because I just think of what programs could be paid for, you know, with that money. I guess for me to vote yes on this, I would have to be guaranteed that I see some results in a year, where there were programs, new programs coming, decent prices for families, so all their kids could participate, because I think it's important that Parks and Rec really reach out to the community.
Councilmember Bracco?
Since I have been up here for a while, I'll let you know, every time we have done an assessment of recreation, the consultant recommends raising the rates and getting full cost recovery. And then the council doesn't want to go by their recommendation, so that's it. We never do what they say.
Were you going to say something? I'd like to hear what you were going to say.
So from a timeline perspective, so this is the number 2 item on your legislative agenda that we looked at over the last couple of weeks. The timeline that's associated with that is for June of 2027 as the completion date. So that's our target completion date now. So for managing expectations on timeline, that's where we're headed for.
So the additional, you're talking about the differential of about 100K, and that is 150 to if we remove to include an assessment of the facilities, that's that 150,000.
Yeah, you would exclude that.
Right. So I can see the rationale behind, you know, if you're looking at programming, it aligns with looking at where can you offer these programs, right? That makes. What I do not want to see is that this then leans towards supporting anything that has to do with anything to do with the civics, the proposed civic center. That, you know, oh, this would be fabulous, you know, if you had, you know, a pool here at the civic center or anything, because I'll be very honest, I do not support the civic center at this time. So I don't want anything to come back with, you know, I could see, you know, it would make sense out at the sports park, expansion out there, that type of thing, fine. I just don't want this to somehow support the need for anything at the Civic Center. That would, to me, would be a waste of the money.
See, I still go back to the fact that, did I interrupt?
No, go ahead. You go, and then he'll go.
I just don't want us to disregard the talent that we have in the city, you know, on staff and in the community. I remember a few years ago when we had a few fathers that came and begged for a fall Little League program, which when you looked at it, wasn't really going to cost anything. We have the fields. Maybe it'd have a small cost. But see, with that money, I could say, yes, let's try and get these people back and see if they would put that together. And, you know, disc golf came and begged for a piece of property so they could start a program and run it. And everything just kept falling on deaf ears. These are our citizens that are having these great ideas. And I don't know, I just don't want us to discount our own capability of staying on our own 2 feet. Because if it's like what, you know, Councilmember Bronco said, where they come back with this high price tag, and then we go, no, we're not going to go with it. We just wasted $375,000. And I could certainly, you know, go with the 200 and something if we did not have an assessment of our, you know, of the properties of where this can happen, because we know darn well we don't have the money to upgrade all those properties right now. And so then do we discard those particular sports? And then where does this report leave us? Okay.
Councilmember Fugazzi.
Councilmember Ramirez brings up a really good point, which is how is this going to intersect or not with the Civic Center? Because clearly there are some, and I share Councilmember Ramirez's feeling on the Civic Center, that are pushing that train forward, and it clearly has recreation facilities involved in it. And if you were a consultant, you would have to then look at that, and you would have to, if then, kind of every single thing that you're doing to include or not include that. So is that how it's going to go about, or it only is going to go about that way if we include the facilities part or not? So now I've got a little more confusion than I had originally.
Yes, Council, the proposal and the project is scoped to not include the Civic Center master plan for a couple of reasons. One, it doesn't exist, and it's not. We don't know it's actually going to move forward. You know, depending on, there's a lot of contingencies of, you know, funding approval, bonds, etc. The other thing is that what we're asking the consultant to do is to provide actionable recommendations to us, which obviously requires us to be able to do it at that point in time. So the thought is to have phased approaches. Okay, you know, first couple of years, you know, years 3 through 5, etc. To really scope out what, you know, what's achievable right away, basically easy victories, things that move the ball, you know, really far up front, maybe lower cost, because, you know, depending on how the financials look. But at no point are we including the Civic Center master plan in this endeavor.
So does that make the last couple of years potentially moot? Because if you have a 5-year, if they're working through a 5-year or a 6-year plan on what we're signing them up to do, and 2 years from now we are like, yeah, by the way, we are doing it's all been passed through, and its first phase is going to be one of these rec center areas, and it's, you know, going to be built in the next 2 after that. Does that now make that completely not a viable plan because it didn't take any of that? I know it can't because it doesn't exist, but
it's a yes and no. Just to add more confusion to this. In reality, the purpose of facility assessment is to determine what activities can take place at the facilities as they currently are, right? So one is assessing, let's say, Wheeler Center. Okay, showers are working, showers aren't working. What does that do as far as potential programming options that are there? What's limiting, what's not limiting? HVAC systems, things that look at the systems in the building. So not necessarily total revamp, looking at basically those things that we could take, you know, 1 or 2 improvements or repairs in order to be able to expand what we can actually offer at those existing facilities. So it's not looking at wholesale new buildings being installed. That's not just looking at the facilities that we have now. What can we use right now, and what as far as what's of interest to the community? And then is there small tweaks that we can do to the existing facilities to make it meet a high need or high requested activity that's being proposed? So that's really the focus of it. Again, it's if, let's say, the Civic Center, everything lands just right and we were able to deliver it, we'd have to expand what we would do then, because obviously staffing a a full recreation plan is a very different type of operation than what we're going to have with our existing capabilities. And so everything is focused on what we have right now and what we can deliver with basically the facilities that we have now.
I would lean towards what you said as far as this option of 225 and having staff work with them to get this worked out. So I'm in favor of that.
How about people on my right? We guys, are we ready to make a motion here? Okay. Okay, Councilmember Klein. Why don't you go ahead and make a motion on number 2?
I'll make a motion that we do the alternative, number 2, award to Pro Consulting, setting the dollar figure to $225,000, and city staff and the consultant can negotiate the maximum possible scope of work within the budget.
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Councilmember Klein and a second by Councilmember Marks. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bracco?
No.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Fugazi?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Ramirez?
Yes.
Mayor Boso?
Yes. Motion passes 5-1. Thank you. Great discussion, everybody. Oh, sorry. Help me out. Where? It's right here. On 6.1, sorry. Oh, I'm on the wrong list.
And adopt a budget resolution.
Is that all I have to say?
Yes.
And-
The attached budget amendment resolution revised to be the appropriate.
And that's part of the same motion, or do I need another motion?
I think we need to do a separate motion.
Okay. So I'm going to read this one.
Right. So adopt the attached budget amendment resolution, excuse me. Sorry. To adopt the attached budget amendment resolution revised, however, to coordinate with the amount of the contract.
Okay. Can I get a?
So move.
Okay. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Councilmember Ramirez and a second by Councilmember Marks. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bracco?
No.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Fugazi?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Ramirez?
Yes.
Mayor Boso?
Yes, motion passes 5-1. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for the help. Okay, moving on to item number 6.2. Award 4 3-year on-call standard and expedited building and fire plan review and inspection services. Contracts with 2 one-year extension options, and each contract with an amount not to exceed $2 million to 4Leaf CSG Consultants, TRB Plus Associates, and True North Compliance Services. Staff report, please.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and members of the community. Sharon Goey, Community Development Director. Tonight, we have the on-call building and fire plan review and inspection services contracts before you. Our building division and fire prevention division have utilized the resources and expertise of consultants to provide plan review services and supplement inspections to provide customer service to our development applicants. The city currently does not have in-house plan reviewers and has relied on the consultants to provide plan review function. In addition, supplementing inspections with consultants as needed helps the city meet the demands from variations and fluctuations in development activity. Costs associated with the consultant services are covered by plan review fees and permit fees, and these are from applicants that receive the services. The city currently has agreements with 2 consultants, and both of these agreements will expire on June 30th. On December 1st last year, we issued an RFP for on-call plan review and inspection services. We received 16 proposals and formed a review committee consisting of the building official, fire marshal, building inspector 2, and senior hazardous materials inspector. The proposals were reviewed by our review committee and followed the criteria that was established in the RFP process, which included the scope of services, qualifications, experience, references, and the cost proposal. After the evaluation and rating process, the committee recommended the top 4 firms to provide the services. That's what you see on the screen there. Staff recommends having multiple firms on call to provide the necessary coverage and expertise.
Having multiple firms on call helps us respond to customer service demands and respond to fluctuations in development activities. It also provides the city greater capacity and flexibility because from time to time we experience spikes of submittals, different mix of projects or unusual projects. And those are situations where we will need additional consultant assistance. And having multiple firms on call also provides the technical expertise and technical depth for that specialized knowledge in order to review projects, complex projects and large projects efficiently. As mentioned before, these services impose no net cost to the city because they're offset by plan review and permit fees. No work will be assigned to consultants under these contracts unless there is sufficient budget to cover the costs. Staff is recommending these contracts at 3 years with 2 one-year options, 2-year extensions. The recommended contract amount is $400,000 per year per contract over the next 5 years, with an amount not to exceed $2 million per contract. The contract amount allows for flexibility to address the service demand and activity fluctuations, but only the funds appropriated through the city's budget process may be expended. So in other words, staff will not exceed the council adopted budget amount. So staff's recommendation is for council to award agreements not to exceed $2 million each with 4-leaf CSG Consultants, TRB and Associates, and Truth North Compliance Services to provide standard and expedited on-call building and fire plan review and inspection services for the initial period of July 1st, 2026 to June 30th, 2029, with 2 one-year extension options and authorize the city administrator to execute these agreements. That concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Questions for staff? None yet. Public comment, please.
I have no speakers.
Okay. Any questions or comments for staff? Go ahead, Mr. Bracco.
So it's each, $2 million each?
Correct.
And this is paid by the applicants, right?
Correct. They're
It just
completely
passes
recovered.
through us. Thank you.
This just gives you more flexibility than obviously based on load and everything you have coming at you. So that our customer service would be better then because we have more access as far as the tools to get the stuff done. Okay.
Yeah. Provides us the capacity and flexibility as well. You know, like I mentioned, sometimes you could have projects that all came in at the same time. You know, so we see spikes of submittals, or sometimes just different mixture of projects or unusual projects, you know, complex projects. And the timing is not necessarily within the city staff's control because these are up to applicants to submit them when they like to. So,
Councilmember Fugati.
Yeah, quickly, I should have asked during the question section. Sorry, but so maybe it would help people out to understand if you had to staff to be able to meet the peak for what you're getting out of these consultants, how many headcount would you end up having to have at the city to do that?
In fact, it's in our department's work plan to evaluate different service delivery model for this, especially to focus on the plan review function. And we're going to develop that during the budget process.
More or less.
But you know, in fact, last year I kind of looked at, you know, different models that range from completely replacing the consultant with in-house staff
or hybrid
versus, you know, a size of city like ours. It probably will make more sense, you know, to have some in-house staff, but you still supplement that with consultant services to deal with the peak demands and, you know, these fluctuations of activities and sometimes, you know, spikes of submittals.
So if we come to that decision a year or two from now, we're not locked in for this. It's just giving you the ability to have that funding to utilize it as we need it?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and even next year, you know, depending on what bring forward to council when council approves, like I said, these contracts are always subject to the budget appropriations that's adopted by council, so we will not exceed that. This just gives us the capacity in the contract and the flexibility, so when the submittals do come in, you know, we're not trying to scramble and somehow trying to, you know, amend the contracts in order to provide the services, because we want to do that in a timely manner.
So are we locked into a minimum? So let's just say there's a downturn and all of a sudden these projects kind of come to a halt. And we're not building and developers are not bringing in these complex projects and stuff. Are these contracts written so that there is a minimum requirement? And I'm seeing a no there. I appreciate that, because the other thing is to go off of what Councilmember Fugazi was asking, is if we do move to a hybrid or something within the contract timeline, and we are not utilizing them as much, we won't be penalized at all. Okay, thank you.
There's no minimum and there's no penalty.
All right. Okay, I'm going to entertain a motion. Let me read it out because it's long. Award agreements in the amount not to exceed $2 million each with Four Leaf, CSG, TRB Associates, and True North Compliance Services to provide standard and expedited on-call building and fire plan review and inspection services for the initial period of July 1, 2026 to July 30, 2029, June 30, 2029, with 2 one-year extension options, and authorize the city administrator to execute these agreements.
I move.
A second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Fugazi and a second by Councilmember Klein. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bracco?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Fugazi?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Ramirez?
Yes.
Mayor Bozo?
Yes. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much. Great discussion. Moving on to item number 7, introduction of new business, proposed high-speed rail tax increment financing. Take it away, Matt.
Thank you, Mayor. So last week, in our ongoing partnership with the Cities Association, we became aware of the potential for legislation at the state level that could, if it gets legs and passes, create a district in the downtown half a mile from the potential high-speed rail station. This tax increment financing district would take off the top any increases in sales tax or property tax from businesses in that half-mile radius, and use that to pay for the high-speed rail. Cal Cities is putting together a group of cities who have stations that would that might oppose this type of a situation, because it does result in the state reaching into the city's revenue stream and pulling that out for state usage. So given that the Cal Cities is looking for support in opposition, we thought we'd bring it to the council for discussion to see if there's a consensus on supporting this. And that concludes the report.
Questions? What?
I support it. Sign away.
Okay, so if there's no questions, we'll go right to public comment, and then we can get some final comments from council.
I have no speakers.
Okay. Sounds like Councilmember Bracco.
That's my support.
Oh, okay. Okay. Then looks like I need action on that, correct?
Yeah, just authorize the mayor this motion.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to authorize the mayor to sign a letter of opposition to the High-Speed Rail Authority's tax increment financing proposal.
So moved.
A second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Bracco and a second by Councilmember Klein. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bracco?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Fugazi?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Ramirez?
Yes.
Mayor Bozo?
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much. 7.2, receive draft community development block grant program year 2026-27 annual action plan and draft citizen participation plan, and provide direction on CDBG 2026-2027 funding allocations. Sharon.
All right. So good evening again, Mayor, council members, and members of the community. Sharon Goyi, Community Development Director, and tonight we'll present you draft plans related to CDBG and seek council feedback and direction. For some background, CDBG is administered by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. All CDBG-funded activities must meet a national objective, and the city has been meeting the objective by utilizing CDBG funding to provide benefits to low and moderate income persons. And every year, the city receives a CDBG allocation directly from HUD. Last year, after staff conducted extensive community engagement efforts, You recall that Council adopted a 5-year consolidated plan that identified the priority needs for the community. And last year, Council also adopted the first-year action plan as part of the 5-year plan. So now we're looking at 26-27, which is the second year out of the 5-year consolidated plan period. And this 26 to 27 annual action plan will outline the projects during that program year to address those priority needs identified in the 5-year consolidated plan. So just to review, here are the priority needs adopted by Council last year in that 5-year consolidated plan. So for 26-27, we were estimating a HUD allocation of $400,000. And in fact, just today, we received the actual amount from HUD, and that is $362,000 and $315. And HUD sets a cap for some of the funding categories. For public service, a 15% cap is set. And program administration has a 20% cap. So this leaves the remainder to non-public services. In addition to the annual allocations, staff has identified close to $22,000 of unused prior year's resources that can be allocated in 26-27 as well. Because of the cap on public service and program administration, prior year's resources must be committed toward non-public service activities. So this table summarizes the estimated funding, based on the $400,000 and the eligible uses for 26-27. And the cities receives a direct allocation from HUD, as I mentioned earlier, and we're responsible for developing the process to disperse these funds to the community. To facilitate this process, we conduct public outreach and release a notice of funding availability so that applicants and interested party can apply directly. And this slide just summarizes our outreach process to allocate CDBG resources. And for this phase of the process, staff conducted extensive community outreach through public notices, direct notification to applicants and nonprofit service providers. We did a presentation. We've also done a lot of outreach through website posting, social media posting, and also providing hard copies of the draft plans at the City Hall and the library. So for 26-27, we received 9 applications. Similar to prior years, the amount of funding requested is significantly higher than the amount of funding available. To facilitate the analysis, staff identified the applications as either public service or non-public service. And public service has been the most requested application category, and yet it is limited to that 15% cap. Staff has analyzed a variety of approaches and options in getting funds into the community. In the staff report attachment, you'll find this summary. It's a table that summarizes each application's post activity and their requested funding amount. And just today, we also received a message from one of the public service applicants that they're withdrawing their application, so we'll be making some revisions to all the proposals as well. So to look at the proposed funding allocations, we'll start with public service applications. So prior to receiving the message today, we received a total of 6 applications. They are all eligible, and the funding requests total more than $129,000, and they're competing for the $60,000 of estimated amount. Staff provided 2 funding approaches and options. One is equal distribution, where applications will be funded equally, just with evenly distributed funds. And then the other one, we'll just call it evaluation-based option, where applications will be funded proportionally based on their evaluation. And next, we'll look at non-public service applications. So we received 3 applications total, and the funding requests are over $666,000, and they're competing for the approximately $280,000 of available funding. Similar to public service applications, we took the two approaches to have some options to provide to council. So this slide summarizes the equal distribution option for both public service and non-public service. When we get to, kind of council alternatives, it's up to council to decide really any allocation as long as we meet the HUD funding caps. And you can mix the options or really give staff direction on any amount. But just for ease of showing what we have in the staff report, we put all the equal distribution options on the same slide. So you can see in the public service category, all the applications have an equal amount, and for non-public service category, they also have an equal amount too. And this option provides funds to meet a variety of needs in the community. And here's a summary on the evaluation-based option. And this method utilizes the evaluation criteria that's provided in the application. For a public service, staff reviewed all 6 applications and rated 3 applications tying for the first place. 1 was in second place, and 2 were tied for third place. So based on this methodology, staff proposed funding amounts that's proportional based on the scores they received during the evaluation. So those are the numbers you see to the right column. And for non-public service, similarly, staff used the evaluation criteria that's provided in the application and evaluated the 3 applications. 2 were rated equal and 1 was slightly lower, so that resulted in the funding allocation amounts that you see at the lower bottom among the 3 applications. And staff acknowledges how important all of these services are for the community and how deserving all the applicants are for these funds. And just for reference, we're providing last year's allocation, and this was the first year of the 5-year consolidated plan. So next we'll highlight some of the updates for the citizen participation plan. The Citizen Participation Plan established the policies and procedures by which the city obtains and incorporates public input in the development and implementation of programs. So some of the changes we're updating is we have removed very lengthy language that's related and specific to COVID, removing the plan end date. We're adding details to document the outreach methods we have been implementing, such as providing English and Spanish notices and materials, and locations where we post or send outreach information to. We've also added examples of persons and organizations from whom the city encourages participation. We also clarified records retention timeframes and clarified language and basically improved readability kind of throughout the document. So this was essentially a cleanup effort. So council may allocate the funds as you deem appropriate while staying within the maximum caps that's established by HUD. And CDBG resources will be included in the city's budget update. And for our next steps, upon direction from the council, we'll update the draft annual action plan to incorporate the funding recommendations. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll also revise it to take into consideration one of the applications that was withdrawn today. And the second bullet is actually that happened today because the HUD released the actual amount today. And so we will also adjust the proposed allocation proportionally to align with the council direction received tonight. And after our 30-day public comment period ends on April 13th, we'll incorporate all those feedback and then return to council on May 4th for council to consider adoption and approval of the draft annual action plan, including the funding allocations and the draft citizen participation plan. And after that, we will be submitting everything to HUD. So staff's recommendations for council to receive the draft CDBG program year 26-27 annual action plan and draft citizen participation plan and provide direction on the CDBG program year 26-27 funding allocations. Thank you.
Questions for staff? Go ahead, Councilmember Ramirez.
Thanks. This was great. Just a couple of quick questions. So the 21K ish from prior year resources, I'm assuming that these grants are reimbursable then?
They go, these are
is that why there's
projects that didn't completely use up the funding. Sometimes they came in under budget.
Okay.
Yeah, so in fact, the last couple of years, we've been working very closely with all the recipients to make sure they are, finishing the projects. So if you look back at 23, 24, 25, and this year, actually you'll see that unused prior year resources has decreased significantly. But that's actually a good thing because we've been really trying to, make sure we're expending the funding. Otherwise, we could really risk losing the funding.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, and so they do go back to be allocated.
Okay, and do you require audited financials with the applications?
Yeah, the city, actually, the HUD actually has very strict requirements on a lot of reporting and all the details and everything. Yes.
And then you mentioned that there was a withdrawal. I'm assuming that was, we received an email from an organization that's having to close their doors unexpectedly. And so, okay, I just want to make sure that they're not getting funded. Okay. And then, so I just want to make sure, in the either the equal distribution or the merit-based, they're pretty close, yes, regardless. I just want to make sure that when we fund an organization and they're requesting much more than we're allocating based on the funding we have available, that they are still able to basically provide and be successful in what they're attempting to do. And so, my history in my previous life working with grants, when you ask for a certain dollar amount, sometimes, getting a little bit is fine, it helps. But sometimes it makes the difference of a significant difference of how that program is going to be presented and offered and things like that. So I just want to make sure that when we fund an organization, either way, by merit or by equal distribution, that the grantee is able to truly do what they're saying they're going to do with that money.
It'll probably really be up to each grantee to answer that very specifically. But if you look at, a lot of the applications, along with the requested amount, they're estimating how many residents they can serve. So I suppose you can kind of look at that, it would be proportional to the amount.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a simplified way to look at it. But you have to look at kind of really the scope of the proposal.
Okay, and I believe that is... that's it. Thank you.
Go to public comment, please.
Thank you. I have 3 speakers, Carol Kahn, followed by Liz Murillo and Deanne Everton.
Good evening, Mayor and Council Member. My name is Carol Kahn. I'm the Executive Director of Project Sentinel. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank the Council and the Mayor for funding our services in housing, for both fair housing to fight housing discrimination in Gilroy, as well as tenant-landlord counseling, education, and dispute resolution. I can't tell you, we've been in the community 20 years. We have an office here in Gilroy. It's a very busy office. To answer your question, Council Member, when the funding levels shift up or down, then we scale up or down. And we've been in this arena now for over 50 years, so we're pretty practiced at what we need to do. We also we never turn anyone away. So if somebody calls us, they're guaranteed to get at least 10, 15 minutes of our time to help answer what questions, get referrals to other resources, if again, our funding is more limited in any one year. So I did want to respond to that most directly. We're under a different environment right now in terms of the federal funding levels at HUD, and you're seeing this trickle down through the CDBG program. In particular, our fair housing activities are under much greater scrutiny and restriction as to what we're able to do with our federal funds. So we're especially grateful to the city for the CDBG allocation awarded to us, depending on how you decide to redistribute the funds, partly because it allows us to enforce California laws that we can no longer do under HUD funding. So just wanted, again, with appreciation, thank the council, the mayor, the city manager for all the efforts behind the scenes, and Sandra Nava, with whom we work closely, who's been really quite critical to us all these many years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Liz?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members. My name is Liz Murillo, and I am a resident of Gilroy. I'm also a board member for Rebuilding Together Silicon Valley. And I just, for public comment, want to make sure that although the name Rebuilding Together Silicon Valley sometimes could be misleading, Gilroy very much is a part of Rebuilding Together Silicon Valley, and we're very proud of our partnership with the city of Gilroy and the council. So thank you so much for your partnership. We couldn't do what we do without you. In October of last year, I had the opportunity to be a house captain for one of the local projects. We host Rebuilding Days twice a year. And I actually shared a flyer with each of you. It has a photo of that property beforehand. On the backside, you can see the residents with some of the volunteers, as well as the after photo. So you can see what happens and the power of the CDBG funds that we use. To give you a little bit of information about this resident, Steve and his 72-year-old mother share their home in Gilroy, where they've lived for the past 24 and a half years. Both were born in San Jose and have deep roots in the community. Since his father passed away 5.5 years ago, it's been just the two of them, leaning on each other with love and strength. They both face significant mobility challenges. Steve lives with spinal stenosis, a dislocated hip, and chronic knee pain, while his mother also struggles with severe knee issues. Both use walkers, and their physical limitations have made it difficult to keep up with home maintenance. Steve works at a local church, supervising a team of volunteers on the audio-visual and media crew. His Christian faith is a guiding force, giving him strength to persevere and pursue his goals. Some of his favorite memories are tied to weekends at the drag races with his father, friends, and family. His father was the mechanic for their family's 1955 Chevy race car. Those days were filled with the smell of burnt rubber and the thrill of competition. His mother finds joy in cooking, baking, and visiting the coast to take in the ocean's beauty. And I have to stop here because when I first went to go visit the home, they did not have a working stove. And thanks to Rebuilding, a working oven and hood, and thanks to your collaboration in Rebuilding Together Silicon Valley, they are getting that stove. So thank you. So the oven, and the hood. So thank you. He has a lifelong passion for aviation, having spent more than 27 years researching planes, airlines, and aviation history. He recently celebrated a milestone, reaching 2,000 subscribers on his aviation podcast. Their home is filled with memories, but it's become harder to maintain. Support from Rebuilding Day helped make their home safer and more accessible, allowing them to continue living together in the place that holds their shared history and the heart of their family. This family is a great example of a family who cannot relocate. They cannot afford to relocate. And in one of the pictures that you see, you actually can see the wheelchair elevator that was lifted as a result of this funding. Really quickly, I know my time is up, but I want to recognize you guys again for your participation. I want to recognize Vicki Hossman from Floors Direct, who did an in-kind donation to replace water damaged flooring for this family. Gilroy Garlic RV Park, they came out and did all of the yard maintenance at no cost for this family, another in-kind donation. Silicon Valley Electric donated their vehicles to bring debris back and forth.
Thank you so much, Liz.
Thank you.
Sorry.
And New Hope Community Church did all the volunteer work, so thank you guys.
For some reason, the bell's not working. I don't think we couldn't hear it.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, it's okay. Thank you, Liz. Liz was smart. She took full advantage of not hearing the bell. So, good job. Good job.
She did.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. I'm Deanne Everton, Executive Director for Rebuilding Together Silicon Valley. I'm here tonight to thank you for your past support and to emphasize how important your support tonight is for the housing security of Gilroy residents. Our critical home repairs and safety modifications not only restore healthy living environments and improve the quality of life for each recipient, but our work strengthens neighborhoods, fosters connection, and preserves the cultural and economic diversity of the community, all for a relatively low investment while at the same time saving our community costs that far surpass the cost of the repairs. Our clients are long-term Gilroy residents, as Liz mentioned, who've given so much to the community. 90% of our Gilroy recipients are either extremely low or very low income, and that's 50% or below of median income for Santa Clara County, with our average family bringing in just $43,000 per year. We are helping meet Gilroy's housing element income requirements. In the last 2 years, we've assisted 37 Gilroy households. This directly supports the housing element goal of rehabilitating 55 homes by 2031. Your support of the work of Rebuilding Together directly addresses Gilroy's Consolidated Plan's goal to support and preserve affordable housing. We also want to let you know that our commitment to housing preservation in Gilroy is not limited to our CDBG funding. Again, in these last 2 years, we've invested $11,000 in funding directly from HUD and $30,000 from corporate sponsors, not to mention all of the in-kind donations that have come in, like Liz mentioned. Rebuilding Together has committed the last 35 years to preserving and protecting our current housing stock. Our work of stabilizing homes supports generational wealth while reducing the risk of displacement. In fact, 11% of our clients would likely face homelessness without our services. We respectfully request your continued partnership in this important work in fiscal year 26-27. We are grateful for the staff's recommendations for funding, but also know that the need is great, and we are prepared to deliver services based on our request of $275,000. Your investment helps ensure Gilroy remains a place where all residents, regardless of income or age, can live safely and with dignity. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no further speakers.
Okay. Further questions or comments? Go ahead, Councilmember Fugazi.
I want to take this time to reflect back to the same time we did this last year and the experience that we had. And I will say, coming here and hearing the stories is super important, and I commend you for bringing the level of detail that you did, because it really allows us to reflect that there are other people that are in the same kind of situation that you've helped, and how you do it to that degree. In that same vein, there are 3 people, other than the ones that are $10,000 each, there are 3 organizations, I should say, who were recommended that we have some split between the 3. If I'm not mistaken, we didn't hear from the 3rd one. Nobody, I think, came up and spoke to vie for the 3rd one. You know, my personal recommendation on these kinds of things is, if you're not willing to come and fight for your cause and speak up and say why it's worthy, then the money should go to the other organizations that do and have shown that they that they're bringing it to the community. And so I will say for myself, I would rather see the city get the funds to get the sidewalks fixed in some of the neighborhoods, along with the other half going to carry the, sorry, I almost said carry the vision because we had that on our line, rebuilding Silicon Valley, and not the 3rd one that happens to be on there because they didn't speak today and tell us why it's important.
Comments? Further comments?
We're duplicating what we did last year then. So I agree with you on that. And I do have a lot of history with the family, and seeing the event that day, it made a big difference for this family, for their ability just to live normally, as normal as possible with their physical challenges. It just opened up, it just made a huge difference to them. So I do want to thank you for doing that and making a difference.
So I guess what I'm saying is that for the public service amount to equally distribute is fine, and on the non-public service part to split that funds between the public works sidewalks improvements and rebuilding together Silicon Valley, and that would be my motion to do that funding.
I'll second it.
Yeah, so to be clear, everybody, what Councilmember Fugazi just made a motion on or about to, and Klein seconded, is we're going with the equal distribution option. Is everybody okay with that, or we have questions? I mean, that in the public service one, and in the non-public service one. Sure, but also in equal distribution, or in the same column? Okay. Okay. Go ahead. Questions?
So I agree to your point, but I would, before we just kind of throw the axe out, just because it does deal with the elderly, do you know, Sharon, offhand, and I hate to put you on the spot, but what they were, it says to improve, Gilroy Clinic improvement, so it looks like doing something to the actual physical building to expand access for the elderly. Do you know exactly what that was?
Yes, it is to the physical, improvement of the property. And in fact, the non-public service category all has to be some physical improvements. And the Bay Area Community Health is proposing to utilize the funding to build out their Gilroy Clinic into an all-inclusive care for the elderly, expanding access to supportive services for low-income older adults, enabling those needing nursing home level care to remain in their communities.
Yeah, I think I probably would have liked to have heard more about the specifics on that.
That site is, Sharon,
Mhm.
is that site the one on Leasley in Monterey?
I believe so.
They just renovated the existing strip center.
That's not correct.
No, that's a different.
This site is at the St. Louis Hospital buildings in the back. Correct. Yeah, so we have a motion on the floor with a second, and I'm going to repeat it back just so everybody hears it, see if I can get it right, because there's more to it. So I'm going to go ahead and read it, if that's okay with you. Okay, receive draft community development block grant, CDBG program year 26-27, annual action plan, and the draft citizen participation plan, and direct staff to allow funding for the public service and non-public service using the equal distribution column, and divide the $93,868.25 between City of Gilroy Public Works and Rebuilding Silicon Valley.
No, because it's already divided three ways, so it's actually going to be $135,000.
You can just say available funding because we have to revise it based on the actual amount we received today.
I said it wrong, but that's my intent. Yes. Yeah, it's all going towards City of Gilroy and rebuilding. Correct. Yeah. Okay. Does that work?
That's how I understand it.
Okay, let's take a shot and do a roll call.
Councilmember Bracco?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Fugazi?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks? Yes. Councilmember Ramirez?
Yes.
Mayor Boso?
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Thanks for the help on that, everybody. Okay, moving on to item 7.3, acceptance of fiscal year 2024-25 annual comprehensive financial report.
The most fun item of the evening. The financials for prior fiscal year. I can tell. I know. I lost the audience. All right. Well, we'll get through this. All right. So the item before you is the acceptance of the city's audited comprehensive financial reports for the fiscal year 25 as of June 30, 2025. Background: our fiscal year for 2025 concluded in June. June 30th was the official day. It takes us about a couple months to close out all the transactions. Roughly by August timeframe, we are completed with our transactions and go into the finalization, which is October. October, we came before you to report the preliminary year-end report. This year, the audit completed in February 2026. Generally, within the 6 months, we're complete, but this time it took a little longer, particularly because we had a specific GASB governmental accounting standard that we needed to implement, which we were relying on a consultant to get some support to do that. All that to say, we were able to finalize that and issue the report in March. And generally, this report is on consent, but periodically, every couple of years or so, I like to come and present the item and give you the opportunity to ask any questions. So with respect to the objectives for why do we do a audit, as you know, we adopt a budget. Budget is a forward-looking document, kind of sets out what we believe we're going to expend, what kind of services we're going to deliver. And then the audit is kind of the look in the rearview mirror, if you will, kind of how we did on an actual basis, right? It is essentially to obtain an assurance from an independent auditor regarding the city's financial position with respect to all their transactions, reporting, if they are without any material misstatements, if you will. That is the intent. It's to really get an independent assurance regarding the city's fiscal. Who are some of the intended audience? Well, generally because we have the city council, executives, as well as the community that establishes the budget, it also provides them the assurance that how the city actually ended up performing for the year, if you will. And then there are other requirements as well, because the city issued debt, we have bonds outstanding. There are requirements for bondholders, investors. They're always interested in seeing how the city is doing. The credit rating agencies are always interested as well to see how the city's performing. And last but not least, there's a regulatory nature. So for much like we ask for sub-grants, grantees to obtain audits, and we want to be able to get some assurances. Similarly, the grants the city receives, there's regulatory agencies, including the state, that also want to see the city is getting audited and having clean audits and such. So all that to say, it's about a 6-month process. 2 times the auditors come out, one for the field work where they really put us through the ringer, all the policies to make sure all the transactions are tested against our policies. And then they come out in October timeframe to do the finalization where they tick and tie of all the balances that we report and do testing on those balances as well. All that to say, the city received an unmodified, clean, otherwise, which is the optimal opinion that you can get on an audit for fiscal year 25. I have some financial highlights here for you, a lot of details in the management discussion and analysis. Really, I'm just going to be hitting the high notes here for you. Happy to answer any questions. So from a citywide, overall, city's net position increased by $34.4 million to $424 million. Majority of that, about 47%, is in net investments in capital assets, so money that's been deployed. There's actual tangible capital assets. And remaining about 33%, or about $139 million, is unrestricted or otherwise available. Another key highlight is for the general fund for ACPR purposes. As you know, we have several different funds which are an extension of a general fund, like the sidewalk repair reserve, like the recreation fund. From a budgetary standpoint, we budget for them separately as separate funds. For ACPR purposes, Governmental Accounting Standards Board require, if they're extensions, you got to wrap them up, report them as one activity. So for those purposes, general fund balance decreased by $1.7 million to $41 million as of June 30, and that's primarily the drawdown is we have had accumulated fund balances in the prior years due to better performances, or we had strategic spend downs of those fund balances in excess of the established reserves. So that's what that decrease is attributed to. As I mentioned earlier, we implemented a new GASB statement, Governmental Accounting Standards Board Statement Number 101, which deals with compensated absences. Employees have leaves on the books. There is a new statement that requires us to account for those leaves as a liability and put those on our books. That is what we were working through towards the tail end of the audit. The other element of the audited financial is a recognition, a national recognition, which is offered by the Government Finance Officers Association. It's a award, certificate of achievement, and receiving that achievement signals a strong financial management, transparency, accountability, and enhanced credibility with the City Council, the residents, and such. Really is a city does have a history of receiving this, so we have received it for the past 20 years. We've issued the ACFR and submitted it. There is an independent evaluation by a panel of 3 that provides the feedback and does the rating. We believe our fiscal year 25 ACFR also meets the GFOA standards, and we have submitted it for that consideration again, which would be the 21st year. With that, really, like I said, this is a consent item typically, but once in a while we'd like to bring it up and talk to you, present it to you. So really the action is accept and file the report.
Thank you. Any questions for Harjo? None? Public comment?
I have no speakers.
Okay, I'll make a...
Okay, you don't need a motion on this. I think we just accept it.
Yep.
Move along. Thank you, Harjo.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to item number 7.4. Moving on to item number 7.4. Council consideration of placing a potential sales tax ballot measure for the November 2026 election ballot. Staff report, please.
I will be presenting this item before you as well. So some background, as the city, most recently in 2024, the city council at the time had considered taking into account the staffing challenges and then the need for adding services. The city council at that time had pursued a public safety dedicated sales tax, which received very encouraging results. It had the support at about 60.5. However, because it was a special sales tax, it did not meet the required 2/3 threshold. All that to say, challenges still, much of those challenges today persist. Specifically, we have rising service demands. One of the most evident one is we have daylighted a lot of the items through the implementation and the utilization of See-Click-Fix. So a lot of the issues have come to light that we know require a lot of investment into the community to enhance that service level as well. So in addition to that, we have inflationary pressures. As you know, we've been impacted by elevated levels of CPI in the most recent years that have impacted us. We have also a identified need for fire station staffing. As you know, we are currently undergoing the process of building the 4th fire station, but we fully recognize that we do not have the resources to staff that fire station. And similarly, we have similar needs in our police department. And then more recently, which I shared with you as part of our last quarterly budget update, is we are a little concerned about these services that we're obtaining from the county and the impact that would have on the city's finances with respect to obtaining those services. So all that to say, again, the underlying theme here is public safety is a key priority of this council. It has been for many years, and we're coming to a point where the existing resources are kind of stretched. There's not enough fund balances, if you will, to expand those services. So again, the core service needs here really focuses on getting that 4th station up, which would require us to go from 40 to 45 staffing. We currently have 40, as outlined in the staff report. We do know that the standards of coverage study that was conducted by regional agencies, which Gilroy was a part of, did identify that there is a need already for us to be planning and implementing a fifth station or 5th company, which would require us to get to the 57 staffing. If we were to take both of those into consideration, the ongoing operational needs would be about $3.6 million just for the fire component. And then on the police side, we know that we have gaps across our sworn and support roles. Which would look to add a host of positions, particularly officers in our patrol unit. We would have additional support in our anti-crimes unit, support of dispatchers to support the implementation, perhaps for the emergency medical dispatch. That could be an element that we could perhaps enhance. As we know, that's a challenge, and with the county, especially with the fees that they're implementing there. And then as well as a records position, which would help with the public records responsiveness and overall operational support within the administration and the records there. So the estimated need financially quantified is to the tune of about $2.5 million a year. And then Public Works is the more recent addition that we've had, again, all resulting from council initiatives that we do have underway. See Click Fix has daylighted that there are improvements that we need to do, and there's a heightened interest with respect to traffic safety enhancements, by way of bicycle, pedestrian safety, and things of that nature. I've included the other bullet there just to mention, as I've included in the staff report. These are the core services that we have identified based on the funding that would be available with the potential measure. There are other unquantified, funding liabilities, if you will, with respect to our facilities. There are other operational needs in other departments as well, which, again, we haven't quantified at this point, but these are the ones that are quantified and what we would suggest to the City Council for consideration with respect to the framework if you were to pursue something like this. Again, I think I've already touched a lot on this slide. Again, we are really just getting the fiscal pressure due to the service demand levels, inflation, cost escalation. The other element is being competitive in the job market. We do know that we have a couple MOUs that are up for renegotiation. So it's very important for this council and prior councils to invest in our number one resource that we have, which is staffing and employees. A lot of our core services that we do deliver are using personnel. So being competitive in the job market and trying to be competitive with the cities to the north, that is very important to us. So that is something that has impacted the city as part of the last round, as well as will impact the city at least this year, however those negotiations turn out. I mentioned earlier, again, general fund is fully constrained at this point. If you recall my general fund forecast for the last budget update, there's not a whole lot of room left. Our minimum required reserves at about 30, and we're trending right around 32, 31%. So what that states is there's not a whole lot of room to expand services, and existing revenues are insufficient to maintain and expand the services. And that's, again, going back to the example of sales tax. It's not keeping up with the CPI or at pace with how the expenses are increasing versus the revenue. So, so that is a concern for us as well. So when we look at existing funding, there's not a whole lot of room for us to look to expand these services. I think that's really the point that I'm driving here on this slide. One of the other elements that you look towards developing your local or reinforcing your local revenues is you typically look to economic development. As rightfully so, this council has done that. It is a key priority. You've established an economic development director. You've established the department in itself. But all that to say is, it is a long-term strategy, if you will, that will pay dividends in years to come. So what we have tried to do here is outline our current base sales tax growth, basically going all the way out to fiscal year 32. So as you can tell, the second line item there is a percent change in the base. Really, in our current fiscal year, we're forecasting actually going to be coming in under by about $400,000 compared to the prior year. And if you look at the subsequent forecast years, not a lot of growth. I mean, we know CPI is correct. It's not even keeping up with inflation. So the outlook for sales tax is rather bleak, if you will. So not a whole lot of growth, really just flatlining. And from a dollar change perspective, you could look at it, year over year, really immaterial growth. So then you have this concept of, we're going to invest in economic development. As we know, economic development is a long-term play, and it's going to pay dividends over the numbers of years. So what we have done here is, which is a fourth line there, you'll have is hypothetical, simple growth. If we were to invest in economic development efforts, and if it were to start paying dividends, yielding a 1% increase in year number one, which would be the fiscal year 28, and then growing all the way to 5% economic impact by fiscal year 35. What that demonstrates is, in the dollar line item is, it's a significant investment, but the dividends are not going to be reaped until years from today, right? So as you could tell, even if we were to get to fiscal year 32, we're looking at economic development generated efforts of about $1 million, right? And when we look at just staffing the fire station today, it's going to cost us $1.3 million. So just to give that context, is what we have outlined here on this slide. So again, while economic development is very important, it is a long-term strategy again. But it is insufficient to meet our near-term needs, especially when we know our fire station is going to be built in about 1.5 years or so. We're going to be faced with that challenge of staffing it. So in looking at options of how do you pay for added services, really, well, we have an opportunity again. I think we evaluated a TOT, so the council is pursuing that. Again, it's going to generate some dollars, but not material enough to get us what we're looking for. So what we have done here is brought back to you the local sales tax option again. As I indicated in 2024, the city council at that time pursued it as a special public safety sales tax. It received encouraging results, but did not meet the required threshold. So we know the community support is there. It just did not meet the required threshold. And building on that support is what we're asking you to reconsider whether you'd like the community to weigh in on this. We still have the quarter cent capacity, which would generate about $4.5 million. Local sales tax option is more viable rather than, say, something like a parcel tax where you would fully burden the Gilroy residents. There is a there's a diversity in who pays the sales tax, depending on, again, your discretionary income and how you're spending, as well as we know that Gilroy is a regional hub. We know we have our outlets. Our general retail generates a significant amount of sales tax for us, and it's not all local. We know that transportation, we have a lot of auto sales dealerships in town where folks come in and possibly purchase their auto vehicles. So we capture a lot of the outside. Sorry.
But Arjo, on the vehicles, you pay the tax according to where you live. Your zip code.
Use tax only. Use tax only. Not the 1% Bradley Burns. Yeah. So we'll get to that. There's a component of use tax. There's a 1% Bradley Burns that gets allocated where the deal takes place. But if there is a dealership and you're registering it to a city outside, they would get the district use tax component allocated there. If there is no dealership, if you're doing private car sales, then it gets, you pay it at the DMV, then it goes into a county or a state pool, and that gets allocated out that way. But there is an inherent benefit for having dealerships in town. So there's other caveats to how that gets allocated as well, but in its simplest form, that's what that is. So we've done, again, this picture changes based on our sales tax consultant, the leakage per se, if you will, based on the Gilroy's purchasing power, if you will, for discretionary income. They have ballparked anywhere from 22 to 29%. I believe, based on my assessment, that it's likely somewhere between that 25 to 40%, depending on, again, year over year, what that take is if you were to weigh, just because we know general retail as well as transportation make up about 60% of the city sales tax. And in those two categories, we are far exceeding what we can capture here. So that leads me to believe that it's actually greater than what that calculation shows. So again, potential uses for the fire. We're not looking to address the fifth company at this point, but we do know we're building the station. We do know that we need to solve for the staffing. So we're, with respect to fire service additions, would be staffing the Santa Teresa station at $1.3 million. Police, we would deploy, basically bring on additional officers support in dispatch and records as well, which is at 2.5. And public works would be a annual allocation of $700,000, depending on the projects that are identified and prioritized by this council, if you will, right? So that's how we would recommend that you go ahead and allocate those dollars. So with respect to really what the ask is tonight, this is your ultimate policy question. So we would be looking to see if the council is interested. We again have this opportunity to get before the community and give them another opportunity to really reconsider this. Whether you want to pursue it as a general tax or a special tax, as I indicated, 2024, we pursued it as a special tax. It has restrictions around the uses. Also has a higher threshold required, the 2/3. If it were to be general tax, it gives us the flexibility to allocate it, allocate the dollars based on this council's established framework, if you will, much like you allocate dollars in the budget setting process, right? So that's how you would dictate that. And it has a higher likelihood of passage, knowing that we had the 60% support. General typically requires a 50% plus one. So that would be a policy consideration for you. On the accountability side, we're recommending everything that we did for the 2024 effort, which is council would adopt some sort of a spending framework as a policy that how you'd like this dollars, whether it's what we have proposed or variation thereof. We would still recommend some sort of a community oversight committee, which would administer the utilization of those funds, and then also the audit, either through the annual audit that we already do, or if it's a standalone separate audit, we would recommend doing that as well. And then there are other factors, really competing ballot measures. This is the general election, November 26. We do know that there will be competing ballot, especially we know that the school district is looking at something, Gavilan College is looking at something, and then also believe there will be something coming regionally that you can expect in the manner of sales tax, either from a transportation regional agency or so. So really what we're looking here is, this council for you to consider is, is it time to present and give this community an opportunity to really look at, do they want to keep these dollars local, right? Keeping your dollars local gets you the greater benefit by adding resources or services within your community, as opposed to if you were not on the ballot, then there's going to be other competing dollars, which generally tend to pass, if you will. But when we're on the south end of the county, do we get 100% of the benefit of what this community is investing in? I think that that could be argued as well. So with that, an opportunity to leverage the community's interest and focus on safety. Last but not least is a consideration of a sunset clause versus ongoing needs. I'll give you an example. County's Measure A has a sunset clause, although it's a sales tax measure to fund ongoing county services. Council could weigh that in as well, but we wouldn't recommend it because these are ongoing operational needs. If there were one-time needs, certainly you could look at something as a sunset clause, but again, this is something that's required as part of the ballot question, so it is a consideration that you would have. So with that, really, tonight is the next steps, really seeking council direction on whether to proceed and give this community a chance to weigh in on how they want to spend their tax dollars, if you will, whether they be it local or others. And we're also looking for, if you were to say, yes, go ahead and go down this pathway, then we'd really look for direction whether to pursue this as a general or a special, similar to 2024. And if that's the direction we receive, we'll return back with all the necessary steps in order to get us on get it on the ballot for November 2026. From a cost perspective, estimated cost for a ballot currently is anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000, but really depends on how many initiatives are on there, because ultimately county gets the cost spread out against all the other agencies. So that's the ballpark number. There is another element as well. If we were to pursue this, CDTFA also charges a component to administer the sales tax component, but all that would be recaptured against the future sales tax, so you could reimburse yourself for that. And I believe in 2024, that estimated amount was about $170,000, but they would take that cut out of the sales tax that it is generating. With that, that concludes my presentation, and happy to answer any questions.
I'm going to start with questions from Councilmember Bracco, and then I'm going to go to Councilmember Ramirez. And just a reminder for council members, this round is for questions for staff, and then we'll get through it, and then we'll get to some deliberations in the next round. So go ahead, Councilmember Bracco.
Yeah, Sergio, you said that it could be the council could set the priorities, how it's spent, and having a citizens committee to oversee it. But if it's a general bond, the council could spend it any way they want, correct?
Correct. I think what we would be doing, you wouldn't be putting any legal restrictions on it. What we're asking is much like you do as a policy framework, is this council, current council's framework direction on how these additional dollars should be spent or programmed into the budget. And then I think that's what we would ask. As long as we're not putting any legal restrictions on what cannot be spent or what they absolutely can be spent on, I think that's where we would have to, where we would have to be careful on how we craft the language, and then work through our city attorney's office to make sure this council has that flexibility.
So what is staff recommending?
We would recommend, again, I think a general, just because we have this other element of public works, traffic safety component, and it's not 100% dedicated to, say, police and or fire like a public safety that was pursued. And then moving forward, once, say, we were able to address and as things evolve, the council could then be flexible to go in between those categories as well. For example, I'll give you, maybe we, if this were to pass, we know the fire station is not going to be ready to be built until 2027, 2028. We might have an extra portion that we have collected that you may say, okay, for the first year we're going to allocate it towards traffic safeties until we're ready to do the staffing of the fire station. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I think that's really, but the discretion would be up to the council how they'd want to frame that.
Are we looking at maybe like forming a fire district in that area?
That's not in the plans at the moment.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go Councilmember Ramirez and then Councilmember Marks.
And have you consulted with both fire and police to get their, are they both in support of this? I guess is what I want to know.
When you say police and fire, are you alluding to the departments themselves, or are you by extension of the actual collective bargaining units?
They're bargaining units.
We have not had any conversations with the bargaining units. I have consulted with the departments, again, to reaffirm what the needs are, and they have affirmed that those are the needs.
And the city cannot, if this is put on the ballot, the city cannot advocate one way or the other. This is just what we're putting out. But both of those unions could be out on the street paying for flyers. They could be showing either support or opposition, if you will.
Yeah, community groups can organize either way. I won't speak to as to what their position would be, but
no, I'm not asking you to speak, but legally they
legally
can.
Correct, they can.
Okay.
Anything really, the rule of thumb is you cannot be utilizing public dollars to take a position for a ballot measure. So I, as a city employee, cannot be out there advocating in favor or against on city time, city dime. If I'm a resident of Gilroy, after 5 o'clock or on the weekend, if I may wish to do so, I believe I'm able to do that. Okay. So that's where you draw the line. We just cannot expend public dollars in supporting it.
So, and then just so that I understand this correctly, the general fund, it's basically if it's a general tax, it basically is kind of like a general fund. We can decide, what our priorities are and where the money is spent. But if it is a dedicated tax, then it is, it's like a restricted fund.
Correct.
And then, so when you speak about this oversight committee, I see where that plays in, but I'm a little bit confused with the answer you maybe gave Councilmember Bracco. So you said that you would recommend, even if it was a general tax, that you would recommend that we put together an oversight committee. But the reality is there's still, even with an oversight committee, there is no legal obligation. So if in 5 years it's a completely different made up, and we're all sitting here saying defund the police, then they could say all of the money now is going to go into planter boxes throughout the city.
Yeah, I wouldn't put
even with an oversight committee.
Yeah,
If I might interrupt. Yeah. I think it's fairly common to have oversight or watchdog committee, which would typically issue a report annually. They don't have power to decide how the money should be spent. They simply report to the public how the money is being spent.
Okay. So my point is then, if it's a general tax, it still can be whatever, even with an oversight committee. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Marks.
See, that's my issue too. Councilmember Ramirez hit on a lot of concerns and questions that I had. To me, it would have to be a specialty tax.
Do you have questions? Because we're not going to deliberate
okay.
yet.
Oh, we're not?
So
Okay.
let's do questions first.
No, I guess, okay, my only question there would be about the oh God, I can't even think of the name, the group that oversees it. And that was the oversight, thank you, the oversight committee, and it was already asked and answered.
Okay, let's go to Councilmember Fugazzi.
Okay.
And then Klein.
First question is, with this 0.25% sales tax, what would we look like comparatively to nearby cities in terms of affecting our leakage?
I think we would still be towards the lower end. There are cities to the north that have a higher tax rate, if you will.
Well, I mean, Morgan Hill and Hollister.
I haven't done the analysis for South. I do know that recently, April 1st, due to the county's Measure A, our sales tax did increase. It went from 9.125 to now 9.75.
Mm-hmm.
But if and when we come back, we can try to get that information back to you. But I have not.
So without, if I can interrupt,
Sure.
so without anything else passing in November, we would be at a 10% sales tax here in Gilroy. Is that what you're saying? At least for 3 years because of the county sunset, or? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
In what you've proposed here,
Mm-hmm.
given where we are right now in sales tax, and given the county Measure A, that at least for a number of years we would be at 10%. We'd be at a 10% sales tax rate.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. And in the last time we did this ballot measure was in 24.
Mm-hmm.
What was our hard cost, and how much staff hours were put towards that?
I think hard cost for the ROV was about $80,000 for that measure specifically. And then there were other costs with respect to our legal reviewing all the documents and such. I would probably ballpark those under $10,000. And then staff time, I don't have an estimate for you, but I would possibly, if I were to estimate, 80 to 100 hours, I would say.
Okay, and so this one you have estimating it's going to cost us more than the 80 or 90 grand.
Correct, because county, again, because the way they are allocating services, even with the ROV department, these are estimates from the ROV for placing a ballot initiative at the 26th ballot.
Okay, so hard costs on this, you said as much as 200.
Yeah, so say as much as $200,000. I would
another 100 hours of staff time,
right? Which is already, what primarily would be my time already budgeted. So,
right,
whether
but it's
you
opportunity
consider
cost.
That, yeah, it's an opportunity cost.
There is an opportunity cost to everything. It's
correct,
not infinite.
Yeah.
So,
but again, that's an opportunity cost. If that,
I'd like you sitting on how to save money, not how to earn money. But okay, next question, and then I'll have my last question here and move on. In 2024, I remember it being almost seeming dire, just like this, right? Like we've got all these costs that we're going to have and staff costs, and we need to put this thing into place. And now we fast forwarded a little bit, and it wasn't exactly dire, right? We've survived. So how is that we've, what was couched as being, we need to do this thing, we need to do this thing, and we're surviving still now without having done it? What is the assessment, the reason behind that?
Well, I think I would say a couple things about that. Is I think when we say surviving is, definition of surviving, right? At that time, we were significantly impacted within our fire services with respect to meeting our calls for service demand, if you will, and we had a lot of folks that were out on extended leaves. We were struggling to kind of get our Santa Teresa station even staffed. So I think if we were to talk to our fire chief, I think
we made it through, and it wasn't as dire as
I think we
predicted.
Well, again, depending on definition of dire, right? So I think if you were to ask the fire department, I think those struggles still persist today. We haven't come out of the woods, if you will, but we are making deal with the best that we have with the resources. I think that's how I would articulate that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilmember Klein.
My question was asked, so I'm good.
Okay. I'm going to move to public comment.
I have no speakers.
All right. Go ahead, Councilmember Ramirez.
So, I support everything that you presented, right? Especially when it relates to public safety. We're understaffed grossly in both police and fire. I think that throughout not just public safety, but, throughout the city, we need to be more competitive in our packages. I think that does play into our success in hiring, some of these open positions, as well as getting the most qualified candidates, with an exception, of course. But my concern, and you pointed out a couple of these, first of all, I would never support a general tax for this. I would only support it if it was for public safety. And so that would be, a dedicated, only because my concern is that, I think that while we might all agree public safety is a priority, I don't know 10 years from now what would happen. My biggest concern is what is going to be on the ballot in 26 from other entities. And you alluded to that with Gilroy Unified, Gavilan, VTA. I think the county has something as well. I mean, all of these things. And I think that as somebody looking at all of this, it's like, forget it. I'm afraid they just go, forget it. This is too much. So I don't know whether the timing is right, especially given the current economy and people are going paycheck to paycheck as it is. And so I struggle with it because I think it's necessary, but I'm not so sure that that we can pass it with everything else. And I don't know whether it is something that we can work with our local partners and say, look, Gilroy Unified, Gavilan, you've had things on the ballot for the last several times. It's our turn because this, if it were a public safety tax measure, benefits your constituents as well in terms of public safety. So that's my thought.
Councilmember Fugazzi.
So, what pains me here is I want to see more work done in game planning scenarios because this is incomplete in my opinion. It's a stopgap measure for things that might happen or we might need without looking at a different way of providing services, staffing that we have. We have two things on our work plan there that came up on the priority list. One of them is the police study, the other is on the fire study. I very much want to understand, I'm a big AI guy, so I've done a ton of research. I told Harjo on this, and when you look at public safety, even adjusted for inflation, The market's the market, but the fact is that it is an incredible increase in pay in public safety over the last 26 years compared to the amount of service delivery that we have here per capita. And being able to compete out in the fire space is something we should look at. I don't know if it's any good or not, but we need to look there. We need to look at what the downside is if we play the game this way or we play the game that way. And I want to see the smart people like you and the new city administrator say, well, here's how we can do this. Here's how we can do that. Because if you don't get, even if we tonight were to say, yeah, let's go for that, and you don't get it, you're now faced with how you're going to run the city anyway. So the same way, my opinion is the county should have done this game planning back when they knew that they were going to probably lose funding. They didn't, and then they just said, well, okay, now we're going to put this and put a sales tax measure on. I think we need to be smarter than that. Sales taxes are regressive. It is not a situation where we're keeping money in the city just because they have a tax. It just means more tax. It doesn't mean one or the other. It's not like there's some sort of a trade-off. And sales taxes are the opposite of economic development. And when we take a look at people being able to decide where they're going to spend the money, even 0.25%, when you hit that 10% mark, that's a big deal. That is a big deal, and it remains to be seen what's going to happen, whether it's VTA that does it or somebody else or some other transportation group. So I'm not in favor of any sales tax for this year. I will say that in some of these scenarios that you look at, look to see whether or not some sort of reserve adjustment for a short period of time needs to be done in order to work through the problem and go like, yeah, we've got more information on how to work this out. We're going to go to this other kind. We're going to go to a fire district in this area. We're going to do this and provide some of those options to council. I know it's a hard decision. There's a lot of things in front of us, but I think we have to do that work first before I'm willing to get behind any sales tax increase measure. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Councilmember Bracco.
I agree with Councilmember Fugazi. We the people are tapped out. It's every 2 years, government comes and says, give us some more money so you cut back at home so we don't have to. And they want more money. And there'll be more on the next ballot in 2 years. And maybe some in between, as we've seen with the county, they'll put them in between and spend the extra money. So I'm a no vote.
Councilmember Klein.
Yeah, again, it would have to be a special tax specifically, like it was in 24, which I did support. But I'm not sure about the timing, like Councilmember Ramirez said, and Councilmember Fugazi, we're going to do studies on both fire and police. So there's our opportunity there to see what the needs are. And I think it's taxing on the people. I agree. I don't know that they're going to be as favorable this time as they were the last time, even though it didn't pass. It was close. Yeah, I'm challenged by it. So I'm open to taking a look in 28 and not in 26.
Councilmember Marks?
No, I have to agree. Times are really tough for a lot of people. And I think going up to this 10% level is going to be very, very difficult. And I, too, would only support a special tax because a new council, which will change this November, could very easily put that into salaries, change how they want to spend it. There's no guarantee. And if we're going to increase the tax, I want to make sure that who we designate the tax to go for actually gets it.
Councilmember Ramirez, we're going to go quickly, and then we'll go to Councilmember Fugazi.
Yeah, the only concern I have with waiting, though, is, and to your point, we have those studies on there. I supported them only because I thought that they would lead to something like this. I didn't think that we needed it because I think it's already established that we have the need, but I was afraid that this kind of thing wouldn't be considered without those. But my only concern is that if we're not on the, and I'm not advocating one way or the other, it's just stating a concern, perhaps, the people to my left and right can chime in on it. if we don't go on the ballot in 26, but the things that do go on the ballot in 26 do get passed, then we'll, in 28, will people then say, I can't? So I don't know. I just...
Okay, I'll jump to Councilmember Marks. Did you have another comment? Or Fugazzi, excuse me. I'm sorry. It's Fugazzi, excuse me.
I want to remind the rest of the council members, too, that there's the hard costs here of a couple $100,000, and you've got staff time who are going to have to put this together, which is opportunity cost to manage this and to put it together. And so, again, as you're lamenting spending $200,000 here or $300,000 there, this is like pulling the lever on a slot machine to see whether or not you get this. You're going to have to drop $350,000 into this thing to know whether or not you did, and forego other things that Harjo or other staff could be doing. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about this is not a done deal just to go out and do it. It is there is a percentage here. And if you're going to look in this year and you're going to go for a special tax and it was at 60% the last time, I'm betting, man, I'm not going to say you're going to be hitting even that threshold this year, given how high the taxes are going to be at that 10% level and everything else that's going to be on the ballot. People are going to have a slash it all kind of mentality, in my opinion. So, yeah.
You want to say a few comments?
Yeah, thank you. This is a great policy level discussion, and I'm really glad we are having the opportunity to go through it. Wanted to sort of wrap a couple of things into the conversation. One is, since I've been here a lengthy two months and counting, it's been very evident that the City Council wants to do a lot of great things for the community, and those things often come at a cost. And so I wanted to at least have the opportunity for you to consider it at this point and have that conversation now versus coming back in the next budget cycle and say, well, why didn't you tell us, right? That kind of a thing, so that you're aware of what the opportunity costs are, to use opportunity cost words again, what opportunities we're foregoing. And so it puts us in a big challenge in funding some of the things that I've heard that we really want to do in the future. We'll get there, but it'll be with trade-offs. There'll be some things that we don't do because we have limited resources. We also add that on to, I think without sort of reading tea leaves, county costs are going up. We're seeing that they're going up dramatically, which takes away some of the opportunities potentially for looking at a county-wide service delivery model for things like the fire department. We're already looking at challenges there for other services like animal care and dispatch and things like that, where the costs are going up so much that we may need to spend more money elsewhere in order to provide that, so we can get some stabilization in the costs. And then the last is simply the retaining dollars locally, and we do have a significant imbalance of dollars coming into Gilroy from its sales tax perspective. So you'd be funding this to some extent with other people's money outside of your residents in Gilroy. So I wanted you to have all of those things in context so that you could have exactly the conversation you're having today. So I do appreciate this.
Okay, so I have a couple of comments. I haven't gone yet. So first of all, I want to see if I can answer a question for Councilmember Ramirez. I don't believe that a conversation is warranted with other agencies regarding their taxes that they want to. We've already tiptoed into those conversations, and it's an absolute hard no. So just wanted to make that clear. There is no hope for that. And so what I would like to say is I do support this tax, and I definitely would be interested in doing a special tax. And one of the reasons why is I know a lot of you council members hear this conversation at Coffee with the Mayor because a lot of people come to it. But what do we hear at Coffee with the Mayor over and over and over and over is traffic safety, public safety, pedestrian safety, over and over, even when it's not the topic. And I believe this community would support it. I disagree with Councilmember Fugazzi and Councilmember Bracco. I do believe this community would support it, and that's why I'm in favor of it. And what I've heard from 3 other people here tonight is that they would support a special tax. Is that correct?
I would not. I'm still on the fence.
Okay, well, in a moment, you're going to have to decide. So,
speak more.
Yeah. Well, I would support the tax if it was a special tax.
Why do you think this year is different, Greg?
Yeah. I get a sense from the community that I'm engaged with that they would support it.
You're going to get 10% more vote you got last year 6%.
Correct.
See, when I hear people talking about what they support, they never really quite equate it that it comes out of their wallet. And I would be really curious to know at Coffee with the Mayor if you brought it up to them and said, hey, would you support this tax? Yeah. What would their answers be?
Well, so then the question will go back to you, Councilmember Marks. I heard you say a moment ago you would support a special tax. Are you still there, or you will not?
I'm not there. No.
Okay. Then it appears.
Well, here's the one good thing. The one good thing about this is, yes, I understand we're putting in, $300,000, right? But it is an opportunity to give it to the residents and say, this is your option. It's not something that we are deciding. Yeah, I don't think that, in my opinion, I don't think that that public safety did a bang-up job in promoting it. I think there was an imbalance on, certain public safety did and the other didn't.
Nobody has been able to say, neither the mayor nor yourself, exactly what is going to be so much different 2 years later than what we saw before, when we had less competing taxes, when the tax rate wouldn't have been 10%, when we weren't as tightly strapped with money, with all the other factors that came into play that were different in the summer of 2024 than the summer of 2026.
Right. Councilmember, hold on a second. Councilmember Marks, you want to speak again? I saw you reach for your mic.
I did. Okay. I was just going to say there's been a major economic downturn since 2024, and families are struggling, and I just can't see how they're going to survive when they're already struggling to add another, 0.25% tax on and bring it up to 10%. It's a bad dilemma that we're in. It really is.
The reason why I think it's different, I agree with Councilmember Ramirez. I think the rollout a few years ago was poor. I think the rollout now could be better, and that's why I would support it.
And one last thing, I would not sit up here and approve for me to approve to impose a tax on our residents, but it's different allowing them the opportunity to decide whether they want to take on this tax or not. So I'm fine. I would make a.
It's not an action item. We're giving direction.
Oh.
But there's 6 of us here tonight, and we could be split on this, which means we can't move forward.
One more thing, and that is, tonight it's just direction of staff to bring this back, and there's quite a lot of procedure to go through, and the clerk will advise us on that. Ultimately, if the tax goes on the ballot, the council will have to adopt an ordinance, and will need 5 votes to adopt the ordinance and make the decision to put it on the ballot. You don't need 5 votes tonight to tell staff what to do, but when it comes back, you need 5 votes.
So, Councilmember Marks, we can give the staff guidance to move forward today to bring it back later, that we would have that vote on it, and then at that time we can talk at Coffee with the Mayor with people and the community,
So
if you would support it.
I would support it.
Right, temporarily until that point in time.
I'm having a hard time with that. I'm sorry. I'm seeing too many struggling families right now. Can't support making it even worse for them. If it was 4 years ago when we had it on the ballot, that'd be fine. But I would certainly hate to spend $300,000 at the end of the day, and this ballot measure failed again in November, because that was $300,000 we could use for something else.
But can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
Are you asking, Mayor? Are you asking Councilmember Marks we're not deciding tonight to vote whether we're going to do it, but you're asking for some time so that to give direction to staff to look into it while you will make a commitment at Coffee with Mayor.
Anybody can make a commitment.
Yeah.
Everyone on council can make a commitment, go back and talk to their constituents to see how they feel about a 10%.
Yes.
That's what I'm asking Councilmember Marks for.
Oh, no, we could.
Okay.
I certainly could talk to them.
Yeah.
one thing, if I may, Mayor, I would add is I think if there is an interest to pursue it as a special tax, if you will, I think a lot of the legwork's been done. So my job is going to be fairly easy, if you will, as a lot of that legwork was done in 2024. So whatever the ordinance was, it's drafted. So it probably needs some oversight from the city attorney's office, myself, to update with whatever feedback you get. So just wanted to point that out as well. And then I do appreciate the city attorney's clarification on ultimately if and when that ordinance, the formal action, it is going to require 2/3. So
Okay, then Councilmember Marks, can we move forward with that, then to come back in June with ballot language and you can make your decision then, and the rest of council can make their decision then. Okay? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so it sounds like to me we have the majority of council today to ask staff to go back and do additional work on the idea of putting a special tax on the ballot and come back in June with ballot language with the idea that we need a 5-vote majority to move forward. Is that right?
In the meantime, and I'm writing myself a note right now, let's talk to our constituents and our supporters.
Okay, so let's give it, so we approve of a thumbs up? 1, 2, 3, okay. 4, we have 4.
Okay, so 4 thumbs up to proceed as a special tax. So that's
come
how
back
we
in
will
June with
proceed
ballot
and
language.
Come back with the formal action and put it before you. Okay.
Thank you. All right, that concludes, I'm sorry, City Administrator. City Administrator report, item number 8. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing to report tonight.
Okay, City Attorney's report.
Yeah, I have nothing either, and I think that leads us to the closed session.
Take us into it.
Thank you. 10.1, public employee appointment/employment pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, Gilroy City Code 17A11-2. Name and title is Finance Director. So the first thing to do is ask for any public comment.
I have no speakers.
Okay, the next thing to do then is to adjourn to closed session. In closed session, the first thing for the council to do is to take a vote on whether or not to stay in closed session. And that is a reportable action, the vote.
Thank you.
We take it now, we take it when you get into closed session.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
We're not in closed session yet.